City Council, Monday, August 14th. Roll call, Mr. Scott, Mr. Brower, Mr. Blackwell. Here. Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Kirk. Here. You would stand for our invocation of pledge, please. So we thank you for the day. We thank you for the opportunity to be here together. We thank you for those that have come, and thank you for safe travels here. We pray that you guide us and direct us in our meeting and our decisions and our discussion, and we pray that all the decisions that we make would be in the best interest of the citizens that we serve. Pray especially tonight for the folks in Hawaii who suffered great loss financially, materially, and loss of life. I pray for those families. I pray for comfort and restoration for them. Thank you for how you protect us even when we don't acknowledge it, but I thank you for your goodness and your mercy. And I just pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. This time, I ask for a motion to approve our agenda for this evening.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion by Ms. Taylor, a second by Mr. Blackwell to approve the agenda as presented. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell? Yes. Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Before we get into our agenda items, I'd like to make some special recognitions. I think that some others will be made as well. I'd like to ask Mr. Alan Burns to come forward. Mr. Burns is the Executive Director of the Coastal Regional Commission. Is a 10-county organization that represents all the folks of the 10 counties in many ways. At our last meeting, which was last Wednesday, we had an opportunity to recognize some of the serving members of the Coastal Regional Commission. And we had one that was unable to be there with us, but we certainly want to recognize him tonight in a formal way, and that is Mr. Herb Jones. Mr. Herb Jones has served 16 years on the Coastal Regional Commission in many capacities. But, you know, beyond that, Mr. Jones is a public servant for many, many years. Those of you who don't know him from Effingham County. But he served in the state legislature representing much of Savannah for many years. Moved up here to Effingham and has continued to serve faithfully in many capacities. And so we wanted to publicly acknowledge Mr. Herb Jones tonight for his 16 years of service to our Coastal Regional Commission. Herb, can you? His last meeting was May. You want to just stand right there? How about that? Is that all right?
Well, it's sort of dance a little bit.
Herb, I've always called him the Energizer Bunny because he just doesn't quit. He never has. I'd like to also recognize some of the folks. We've got several members of the Coastal Regional Commission in here. Mr. Dan Cody, who is one of our previous chairmen. And then we have our Effingham representatives. We have 3 representatives on the Coastal Regional Commission. Commissioner Reggie Loper, and our newest member is Ms. Rebecca Boston. Now, she is not replacing her because no one can, but she is filling that seat ably, I'm sure, for Effingham County. So we have 3 representatives on the Coastal Regional Commission. Again, Alan Burns is our executive director. Alan, I'd like for you to maybe say a word or two.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and thank y'all for recognizing and sending her, and especially thank you for sending her for 16 years with us. It's been wonderful. He's been a good friend, and he has been a wonderful representative for, not only for Effingham County, for our region, and also for our state. And we really appreciate everything you've done. And the reason we're having this here tonight is that Ken, who's also been on our board for quite a few years, was just elected chairman of the Coastal Regional Commission for a 2-year term. And we're excited to have him. Y'all have wonderful representatives representing you, and we work with Effingham County and the other 9 counties of our region, and are able to do a lot of good things statewide to assist the fine people of Georgia. And you have been the best servant than we could possibly have for everybody in the region and the state. So, and I do appreciate it, Herb.
Thank you.
I miss you already.
It was not supposed to be here, we wasn't able to be there Wednesday, but I just didn't really feel like we could go without recognizing her for what he's done, so thank you, her. And you're welcome to go home anytime you want, you've earned that. You don't have to sit here.
Congratulations. Sure.
You have friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Jump there when I'm not, jump. Thank you, Kay, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
I got you, come on. You ain't no fall, you might fall with you.
I didn't miss and that. And he, or at least the last 10 years.
That's right. Herb is a special person, and I make him partial, because he and my wife are first cousins. But Herb is, he's a worker, he's a special person. And I believe also we'd like to, Ms. Councilmember Taylor would like to do some recognition.
Yes, I would like Lolly and Sherry to come up here. Terry, David,
May as well call.
Tim, all of y'all stand up. We have some of the best people working for us, I just want to tell y'all. They've never done the radio before. The rec department couldn't do it because of staffing. Mike was out with surgery, so they took it over, and within a month, they only had a month to plan it, did a fabulous job. I mean, everybody worked so well together. We are just so fortunate to have such great employees, and I just want to thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
And it was very nice working with y'all.
Thank you.
Sweat you later.
All right, now we'll move to our agenda items. First item is the approval of our council minutes of June 26, 2023. I found some grammatical corrections, which I've given to Ms. King. Other than that, I found no errors. Did anyone have any changes or corrections on those that they found necessary? Now I'll entertain a motion to approve. Quick motion to approve. Second. A motion by Mr. Kirkland, second by Mr. Blackwell to approve council minutes of June 26, 2023. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yeah.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Next is the approval of the council minutes of the meeting of June 29th, 2023. As you may have seen in the minutes, there were quite a few items missing, particularly at the end of the meeting. I have given those to Ms. King. I would ask at this point, maybe if we table these for approval on August the 28th. She now has those corrections and she'll present those at that next meeting.
Make a motion to table to August 28th, the June 29th approval meeting minutes.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Blackwell, second by Ms. Taylor to table council minutes of June 29th, 2023 until the meeting of August 28th. Any question or discussion? Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes,
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
thank you.
Now, as we go into our agenda items, if you are here to speak in regards to a agenda item, when that item is up for discussion, you will be asked, if you will, to come to the podium and state your name for the record, and we'll be able to have input into that particular item. With that, first item is a public hearing number 1, and I'll turn it over to our public hearing officer, Mr. Raymond Dickey.
We'll open a public hearing on petition requesting a variance to construct a fence within the front setback area. Property is located at 505 East Williams Street, owned by Jacqueline Batoon.
Yes,
And
sir.
it is zoned R4 single family. That being the case, property will advertise in the paper.
It was.
Legal notice, and property owners surrounding were notified. And the property was marked with the
It was.
proper signage, correct? Okay. That being the case, would you please state your name and address for the
My
record?
name is Jacqueline Betoon, and I live at 505 East William Street, Lincoln, Georgia.
All right, if you would just tell Mayor and Council what's your request.
I would like to put a fence up and continuing the fence around my property because it's already 3/4 of the way. I just want to go straight across the front for my protection.
Okay, let me get this straight. You had kids come and charge their phones
Yes, ma'am.
in your carport area?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, now I have cameras on my carport and every piece of our property.
Very good.
Yes. But if those people, those same people walk on my property and they get hurt, they can sue me.
Right.
So again, for my protection, I would like to just shut the front off of my fence off with 2 sets of 6-foot gates, so it's 12-foot openings, so anything can get in and out, except for people.
And what was the height?
And dogs, I'm sorry, and dogs.
The height of the fence you proposed erecting?
4 foot
4 foot.
Yep.
And what type of material?
galvanized chain link to match all the corresponding fences around me. I even have it matched up to the fence right directly next to me, not connected to theirs, so it could be perfectly cosmetically appealing. Except mine's new, not 25 years old.
Come up here for a second. I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Is this right here, is that the front of, that's your driveway?
This is my driveway right there, it's one of them is a circle driveway.
Right. Well, you already have a fence coming up already.
There, no,
Yeah.
not across.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay,
going,
yeah.
we're going this way, that doesn't need to be closed off.
And that's across the front of your property.
Just straight across.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Real easy. Actually, it's quite easy. I'm doing it.
Any further questions or comments?
The only comment I have, Mr. Dickey, is that when I drove by this afternoon, looking at her property, I drove the whole length of Williams Street there, East Williams Street, and there was approximately 7 more fences in front yards along that street. Some of them are chain link, some of them are either vinyl or wood picket type fences, but I'm sure all of those apparently have been there for quite a while and were grandfathered in when we instituted a fence ordinance several years back. And I noticed also on the corner of Williams and I forget the other street.
It's probably
501. Yeah.
can't tell because there's no street signs on
Yeah, there's not a
Tyler,
street sign there.
on
but there
Tyler
was a-
Williams or Ron.
Yeah, it's a corner fence.
Yeah.
It's like on the corner, and just the corner, it goes out about 10 feet from the corner, and that's it, in that yard. It's right there where you turn onto Williams Street. It's just a rail
The very
fence.
first house, because
Yeah, the
they
very
actually
first
have
one.
like some kind of chain link or
Yeah,
chicken
the
wire or
one on the other
something.
end.
And then the back part of it
Yeah,
is
Ron
wood.
and Williams.
So they have two different types on that house, yes.
On Ron Street, they have some
Yep.
chain link fence also, so.
Yep.
Any comments from Bill and his own?
This was discussed by the Planning and Zoning Board, and they voted 4-2 to recommend approval of the variance.
It says 2-2. Did I misread that?
Yeah, so I'm going to, I think it's.
So 4-2.
Was it 4-2? Okay.
Anyone from the public wish to comment or have any questions? There being none, I'll close the public hearing and turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Any other information provided by staff that we might need? This building and zoning approved and recommended approval. Any questions from council for Mr. Toon or from staff?
I remember correctly, we were discussing a similar situation, in the last few months, and I think we talked about amending the ordinance to allow fences in the front. And of course, that's a process, but from that conversation, I took it that we were looking at that. So, am I remembering correctly?
You're correct.
It's on the agenda tonight, Mr. Brown.
Right, we'll have the public hearing tonight on fence exchanges.
And I think right now, we're also on a moratorium on new fence installation until the new policy is enacted
That's correct.
and approved.
That was my question. How does this interact with what the new ordinance is that you're going to recommend? I just want to make sure we don't, stab ourselves in the foot.
Absolutely, and we're thinking that same thing. So we are looking at
Right.
permitting fences in the front yard setback, so that would go ahead and take care of that. We did have in the original language that we brought to Planning and Zoning Board, 42 feet tall and no chain link. In talking about that with staff some more and looking at fence permits that we've gotten in, driving around and looking at fences, we think that 48 inches, 4 feet is a more appropriate height because it's standard, typical, and that we may want to consider adding chain link and just maybe make a requirement, because we're trying to have openings in the fences that are in the front yard setback. So maybe a requirement that there not be screening or slats or anything like that added to it.
Any other questions from council?
Say Tyler Williams and Ron Street, big signs. Is that what that?
Yeah, there's no sign
I
on
was at the
Tyler.
other end of Williams Street, needed a sign up to get,
This
yeah,
end
it
too.
sort of goes back into Governor's Crossing, that road.
Entry,
Yeah.
There's
It's
none
missing
on
the street sign there.
Tyler and Fourth.
Goals, could you look at those and get
Just
some?
put them up, hey, Stephen, as fast as we put them
I
up.
know they go missing a lot, but
Tyler Sears and that. Tyler.
we can get some up there.
What is our requirement for any fence? Does it have to be done by a professional? Are there standards, or what is it just has to be maintained and it has to be put up the proper way, and that's pretty much it?
The owners can put up their own fencing if they wish. Most of them get a contractor, fencing contractor. It's just basically pull a permit, do a site plan, and make sure it's proper on the property lines. And then we do 2 inspections now instead of 1 inspection. We do an inspection when they put the posts in the ground to make sure that it's in the right place. And then I do a final inspection when it's all done.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Toon.
Okay. Can I ask questions?
Sir?
So does David need to come and inspect my post now?
I've already seen the posts on the ground,
Okay.
so I know where they are.
Are they right? Who did them?
All right, I'll turn it now back to Mr. Dickey for our next public hearing.
Public hearing on petition filed by Belinda Hunt requesting a variance to reduce the minimum width of each lot from 100 linear feet to 90 linear feet. The property is located at 706 17th Street Extension and is owned R4 Single Family Residential parcel 2140032C 00. And the property was marked with proper signage, and the property owners surrounding were notified by mail. And the legal advertisement was ran in the legal way. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you'll state your name and your address for the record.
I'm Joseph Rowe. I'm representing Belinda Hunt for this matter. I'm the contractor. I live at 116 Drifton Drive, Savannah, Georgia.
Okay, if you'll explain to the council what you request.
We're just requesting that the variance of 100 feet be reduced to 90 feet so that we can construct a new home on that property.
I think we denied that in the past request. Over here on, off of 9th Street, they were wanting to do several homes, but I don't know, I have to pull it.
In the planning and zoning notes, it references the property does not meet the requirements now. What does that mean?
That's correct. It's already it's a long, narrow piece of property, so it's already less than 100 feet wide. So this wouldn't make it any less wide. What they want to do is they want to subdivide it. The property is accessed by 2 streets, one on either end, and so they want to subdivide it and build another home at the other end. But we can't
Cut it in half?
cut it in half, yes. But we can't let them do that without this variance because it wouldn't meet the lot width. But as it stands today, the existing house that's there doesn't meet the lot width requirements.
So it's at 90 right now?
It's at about 92, but because, we're not working on an absolutely current survey, we want to give a little bit of wiggle room for when that survey comes in so that we don't have to come back to you.
Do you know how long that lot, Ms. Lewis, has been that size? Was it divided, say, 10 years ago or reconfigured in your research with this variance?
I don't know, but I know I have a fairly old plat that shows it at that
Say more.
long there. And I would say when you look at other homes, while the other ones in that area aren't as narrow, they're long though, so you can tell that they were kind of all subdivided around it.
Any further questions or comments from mayor and council? Anyone from the public would like to speak for or against or have any questions? Yes, if you'll come up here to the podium, please. Yes. Are both of you separate or you doing this together?
Together.
Okay, if you'll both of you state your name and address for the record.
Chanela Estelle, 604 Jadon Street, but I also own the property right next to the parcel that he's referring to, that he's asking for the variance.
Lamisha Estelle, 604 Jadon Avenue.
Okay, you go ahead.
My question is, if you do grant the variance in the new home that they want to construct, where would be the access point for that new home? Which street are you trying to access that home from?
It'll be off of Jodon Street.
Because I pretty much lived at 604 all my life, and all the previous owners always accessed their house from there because that was always considered a private road, because I think my parents' property line pretty much runs half of Jadon Street. If you look at the property lines, I think it's right there in the middle of Jadon Street.
Our aunt had a property originally, now they're in Drayton. So because we were family, they allowed her to have access to the property. And then it moved down to Gary Jean.
Yeah.
And then now it's, owned by Miss Belinda Hunt, but yeah, it was Ayers property and we just, let our aunt have access to the property. So they are wanting to access it through Jadon Avenue.
The rear portion, if they get the variance and they're able to subdivide, that's what they'd like to do. So the home that exists right now will still be accessed where it's accessed from on 7th Street, but the other one would be on Jadon.
Right. The property, I mean, if they own this property, they own that right, rights to that.
It should be right dab in the middle of the street. Originally, I think my parents owned the whole road, but I think they had to give way to the city to get the road paved. So that's how that happened.
Right.
But originally, they owned the whole Jadon Street, but they had to give way so it to get paved.
Right.
So I guess it left where they have half of the road. By the property line.
Mr. Bowles, do you have any clarification on road ownership or right-of-ways for that road?
As far as I know, the city owns the road. From right away point to right, property line to property line.
So what is he saying? What does the property line show from what you guys see?
So this may not be accurate, but you can kind of see where those black lines are above the blue ones, where Jadon is. The black line would be city road. That would be city right away, according to what this map is. And
what
as Ms. Linda
year?
said, these maps aren't always accurate to the foot. but
Because I
they're
think we
pretty
just had a survey done maybe 2 years ago, not that long ago, and it was surveyed where it actually showed right dab in the middle of Jadon Street.
close. I don't have an answer for that one.
That was just
You want to weigh in on that?
We would have to search the title to determine.
See, I actually had that where it was signed by two.
You have a
But it's
copy
on the card. Yeah, I had a
Prior to
copy.
first reading, we can see what kind of research we can do, and I can meet with Mr. Bowles and look at when the city took that over.
So is your concern that they're gonna come, well, I guess I want to make sure I understand your concern. Is it that,
They'll be accessing through Jadon Street. It should be a private driveway.
Yeah, it'll be kind of accessing part of my mom and dad's property.
and y'all's property is right next door on the right?
The house, yeah, right now.
No, you're across the street then.
Okay,
So yeah.
okay, I see you. Okay, I see you.
Well, I think what they're saying is they're saying that part of that street is their property.
Yeah.
And, we'll have to research the
I
facts and
have a
make some
copy.
determination about, as Mr. Bowles said, if the city took the street and paved the street, then the property owners would have agreed to that and deeded that over to the city. And I'm not an attorney, but our attorney can certainly describe that a little better than I can. But if that is the way that process has worked, then that street belongs to the city. It may have been Jadon property at one time, but if that is what has happened, then that is a city street. So they would not be, if that is the case, would not be coming across anybody's property to access this property.
Well, I do have a copy of a survey that, like I said, recently done maybe a year or two ago, that was actually, with y'all city seal on it, with a survey done, that showed that property line halfway through Jadon Street. It's actually in the car.
I would say, let me give you my, card if y'all wanna reach out to me tomorrow, that we can talk before. The first reading won't be until, August 28th.
Just so that you understand how that works, there's two ways it could work. One, that the city owns all of that property, where the road is at. Or it could be an easement that the city owns, which means that the property owners would own to the center of the road. Do you understand? But the city would still have authority to grant easements because it's considered a public thoroughfare, a public way, either way.
Yeah.
And there are already residents utilizing that fleet to access their properties, or nobody?
Nobody ever, ever, at
It's a
all.
tight, slice of land, it's very tight, as she was saying, yeah,
Even the other property owners,
to the other side.
other side, they don't use that. That's why he has two properties, rental properties. That's why he had to make a driveway so both of his rental properties can access from Seventh Street. Cause he could not access Jadon Street.
Tim, can you go take a width of that road, or do you know it, the width of that road?
Not right off the top of my head, I mean, it's like Raymond said, it's got to do some title research on it, see if it was deeded to the city. I don't think the city would have paved it if it hadn't been, the city didn't have a right of way.
Looks like roughly about 20 feet wide.
Yeah, that's not a very city street.
Again, that's on
No,
here, so.
it'd have to be at least 30-foot right of way.
I'm just saying the road. I'm just estimating.
Oh, no, I mean, it's standard road.
Standard lane would vary a little bit, but generally 12 foot per lane.
So like I said, we have 2 more readings after this, we can get everything. we can.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about not, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm concerned if there's a fire back there, Lou, what size road do you need to get your truck back there?
We've had fires back there before we get our apparatus in.
Okay.
It's a full width paved
Full
road.
width paved road.
Okay.
I mean, look, you can see it right there.
But I'm looking at when you have going out
Thank you, ladies. It sounds like we've got to do some research.
Everybody's got some more.
Does anyone else have any comments or statements? There being none, I'll close the public hearing and turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Any questions or comments from council at this point? If not, I'll turn it back to Mr. Dickey for our next public hearing.
We'll open a public hearing to review proposed amendments to the city of Lincoln ordinances concerning section 90 through 94. 94, perimeter fence and wall standards and requirements.
All right, so as y'all know, we do have a moratorium on fences right now that was adopted by council back in early June. As a result of that, we have drafted some new language for the fence regulations, and you received a copy of that. I also included a memo that talks about what Planning and Zoning Board discussed when they reviewed it and some concerns that they had. We made the changes that they requested. Since that time, in addition to the changes that Planning and Zoning Board recommended, we also have a couple of other changes that we'd like to suggest. These are the ones that I referenced just a little bit earlier. Under A, we'd like it to, instead of 42 inches, do 48 inches, which is I said, a more typical size. And then maybe either eliminate the language that says chain link fencing is prohibited in front yards. What we were proposing is that you would have no chain link fencing in the front yard setback. You'd still be allowed to have it around the property. Like I said, after looking at other fences in the area, in the city, we're suggesting that maybe a 48-inch tall chain link fence would be okay in the front yard, but we would suggest that there not be any, sometimes they put the green screening or the slats in it, and then when that starts to wear away, that's when the fence really can start to look detrimental. So we have added, if you look through this, you can see that we've added a requirement that fences shall be regularly maintained, a list of materials that should be used, a list of materials that cannot be used. So just trying to make it a little bit more specific in terms of what types of fences are allowed and where they'd be allowed.
My only question about this, and I think it's great, is, and Jonathan, this is nothing against you, but I feel like the materials that should be permitted, I think it should be the building and zoning instead of city manager, but that's just me. I mean, I don't know what council thinks, but I feel like that would be the person to make the determination on, okay, is this a permitted fence or not? versus John. Now, he can consult with Jonathan, of course, but I just feel like it needs to be written as building and zoning, or whoever the inspector is, because that's the person that's gonna know, you know, if there's another material out there.
I have some photos that I took around town, to show you, the kind of fencing that's really nice and adequate for the residents. Fences in the front yard. That one shows a chain link fence, which it doesn't, block up the house whatsoever. You can see clearly through the chain link, so that's why we added
You
chain link.
didn't get a picture of the pallet then. Yeah, that's beautiful from here.
And those are already all up. They were put up who knows when.
Yeah, very nice.
So
Yeah.
when we say fences in the front setback, that's what we're talking about.
This is the fence.
That's not a fence here, that's not a fence here, but one of the questions that Planning and Zoning Board brought up was what was a CMU fence, so trying to make sure that that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, exposed cinder block. That would be permitted like that, but
48.
a cinder block fence wouldn't be permitted. Not necessarily at that height, but the material.
Okay. So now these changes that we're proposing, these are all part of our ordinance change. There may be others, so is the moratorium gonna remain in place until we're satisfied that we have it as we wanted, or is this good?
Well, so I did want to talk about that. So basically, we could do it a couple ways, and certainly, Mr. Dickey will have to speak to this, I think if y'all are okay with the changes about allowing chain link fence in the front yard, with those conditions, changing it to 48 feet, I can change the, other materials as approved by the city manager to the city building inspector. So we have had several people that have fences. I mean, I have a stack of fence permits, since we put the moratorium on. And if the fences meet the proposed requirements, I guess the question from the public out there is, could we process those permits, or are we held back from doing that until the moratorium passes? And a couple of them are because they have, they're trying to fence in dogs. One of them is along a retention pond and they're trying to protect small children. But that's a question that I had asked Mr. Dickey, and he said it was best to come before council with that question because there is a moratorium in place right now.
Do you feel like this would address most of the issues that we have had or recognized up to this point with our fencing ordinance?
I do. I think it's definitely more specific than the current ordinance, but it still allows some flexibility, and it's in keeping with what we have permitted in Rincon that we have not received complaints about.
As we talk a lot, ordinances are ever changing, and they should be. So, 6 months from now, a situation may come up that may
Yes.
require a change to this again. But I guess my point that I'm trying to get to is, and it sounds like you described it pretty well, that this would address most of the issues to the point that we could probably soon remove the moratorium.
That's correct.
Okay.
So,
This was section 90- through 94 that we're talking about. This is just for residential fences.
it's actually for all fences. We only have one section for fences
That addresses
that
residential.
addresses
And this is
fences,
the one
right?
we're concerned. I want to make
Yes.
sure that we're clear on that, yeah. Because I know the commercial buildings sometimes need a 7-foot fence, and some of them need a little barbed wire because of the contents in their yard or building.
Right, and even, so certainly in a non-residential property, you could use barbed wire. And then on a residential property, you can still go taller than 4 feet, just not in that front setback.
Right.
Now, what does council think about us starting to review fence permits with the moratorium still in place if we know that they'll meet these
I think we
proposed
should
regulations?
allow it, as long as they follow these new guidelines, because I hate for a child to end up in one of those ponds. But it's up to our attorney, I think, just keep it.
Would you propose to, at our next council meeting, remove the moratorium?
Yes.
on the first reading of the changes.
I'm sorry, did I understand that that was residential and business? I guess I originally thought this was just residential. It was residential and business changes for everything. So people putting up business fences now, the height requirement is 48 inches?
Only in the front yard, it's 7 feet on the rear and side.
Okay, it's just the front.
Right. Your name for the record, if you would,
Lori, sorry.
last name.
Eichmann.
I guess I'd like to speak. So the code, the way it's read, is very inadequate. And we've had a ton of issues with fences. And I'm the guy that goes out and deals with them every day. So the code definitely needed some changes. So I got together with Terry and we came up with this. This is the best, what I can figure out for the city at this point right now. The moratorium, really, I'm really not on board with that. So people need to work, need to build fences, as long as they follow the code. But this code definitely needs to be changed like tomorrow. It's been a long time coming that we need this. It's just, the reading of it and everything, it's just so confusing for people. They don't understand the language. So we've tried to clean it up as best as we can so they can understand what the code means and what they can do and what they can't. Of course, we're always there anyway when they need help. But a lot of times they don't know that they need a building permit for a fence, and then that's when I come in. And that's when I have to come in front of you for variance. So if we allow fences in the front yard, that'll eliminate a lot of variances. They'll still be inspected and still be made to meet code, city code. But we need something desperately to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ness. Was the moratorium, well, voting on it, we may have. Was that put in place by that? Because I don't remember.
No, you voted on it.
We did. Definitely.
We placed it in 90.
It needs to come back, obviously, before.
So I can bring that, if you're amenable to that, I can bring up the removal of the moratorium at the August 28th meeting when this comes for first reading. For everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicky, we done with that one?
Do you have anything else to run? May have any comments, the public have any comments or questions? Yes, sir, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address.
Fred Eichmann, 212 Pineland. So you're doing a 48-inch requirement for the front.
Yes.
So we were just working on a project that was in our neighborhood that they pulled. So, which is zoned commercial in the middle of our neighborhood. So they go to build something commercial or a storage warehouse or whatever they were gonna build last time, mini storage. Now they only gotta build a 4-foot fence. That's what I gotta look at. Who's gonna offset my property values and everybody in my neighborhood? So if you make this a rule as an ordinance, commercial or residential, 4-foot fence. They come in here, they're like, hey, we met all the requirements, 4 foot. Now my property value is dropping. Who's compensating everybody in our neighborhood for that?
Ms. Lewis, the example he just gave, can you?
And I know we had conditions, but how does that work? If you put an ordinance in for commercial or residential at 4 foot, and they come in, they meet the ordinance, they're golden.
So the way it works is what we're allowing it in, we're allowing it in the front yard setback. So right now, if it's 4 feet, it can be in that setback. If they want to do anything taller than 4 feet, it would have to be out of that setback, so setback further.
So what happens if they don't want to do anything taller than 4 feet, and we have to look at a mini storage warehouse? Which I know they pulled, but we don't know what they're gonna come in with next. So how do we offset that when the ordinance states clearly 4 foot within that setback,
and I gotta look at that, and that affects my property values.
Well, I think it would depend if there are any other conditions on it. I know with the storage, which, like you said, was pulled, so that's not coming forward right now. There were conditions that couldn't be visible from the road,
Because
so.
that was the ordinance.
So let me say something else. So when you come into the planning board for your site plan for that business, there's gonna be a buffer requirement. And that's where it'll change. So if they need a 6 or 7 or 8 foot fence or greenery or whatever around that business, that's when it'll come up.
But how do you force them to do that if you legally adopt an ordinance for 48 inches?
Because it's a different circumstance. You're buffering it from the neighborhood.
Cool. So.
You know what I'm saying?
This is all recorded tonight? Good, now we got it on record, so when it does come, and I'm not trying to pick, but when it comes back up, I'm worried about our property values in our neighborhood.
We're talking about, the main issue is what we're talking about is in front of people's residential homes.
I get it, but it also stated commercial and residential.
Because our code doesn't separate commercial and residential.
It should.
So
It
it's
could.
one, well, that's something that we need to work on. But right now, it doesn't separate.
Not-
I mean, the way our old zoning is, we need to fix it.
I don't have a problem with a residential doing a 4-foot fence, oh my God.
But take
Yeah.
commercial out, that shouldn't be a commercial front.
Like I said, when you go to the planning board, there's gonna be buffer requirements that are gonna be required at the planning and zoning.
I agree, it just, previous history was that their site plans, they were able to use the height fence for their buffers, that was able to be intermixed. And that's caused great confusion and distress, because we're one of the only neighborhoods that has a commercial property smack in the middle of it on the residential road, with residential houses facing the front of the business, whatever is built.
Right.
So our only request was that the buffer, historically, they've been able to do a site plan doing the buffer at the fence height. So for commercial properties, we're asking for that not to be included, I am a total agreement residentially.
That's where we need to tweak different things, we're basically coming up with a better code for everybody.
I agree.
Let me
We
ask,
have to look at it individually and just kind of see what works for us.
let me ask Ms. Lewis, in the same example of the storage units. When we go to approve their site plan, and all that we do, we can make a condition of that, the height of the fence. I think these folks are saying they'd like to see a higher fence. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
So we could make that a condition of the approval, could we not?
Can you, Mr. Mayor, can you do that if it's law and ordinance?
Oh, yes.
You can force them to do something more than what's an ordinance, even if they're meeting the minimum requirements?
To get their site plan approved,
Okay.
that's what they have.
Because I know the only reason we got it approved last time, or he agreed to it, is that was one of the things we all sat down and agreed with, which we were all in agreement with him, letting them build it, or, a bunch of us were, as long as he met the requirements, which he was gonna, and then he yanked it off the agenda.
Well, you've heard this, Ms. Lewis, so maybe take this information and you might be able to word the ordinance so that it makes it clear that there is an exception or could be an exception in a development agreement or a site plan approval or that kind of thing.
That would be helpful.
Specifically to commercial properties, because what we're looking at tonight seem to be more geared toward residential properties.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Mayor, there is an ordinance that says when you have zoning residential, budding commercial or residential versus industrial, which is not included in this ordinance that they're talking about tonight, that you gotta have a privacy fence. It has a, language in it that requires, I wanna say an 8-foot, 7 or 8 foot fence, privacy fence, but that's in a different area of the code because that's in the zoning part. This is development part. So there is a requirement for a fence in the buffer when you have those two different zones.
You may want to bring that information back.
Reference that section or something, yeah.
Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing and turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. At this time, we'll move into our old business. Item number 1 is a request to accept letter of credit for grass maintenance infrastructure and required tree planting for Hickory Knob Phase 13. This item was tabled at our meeting of July 24th. I need a motion to remove from the table.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirkland, second by Mr. Blackwell to remove from the table. Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor? Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
All right. Who is here on behalf of this request? From Hickory Knob?
Good Mayor, Council, name's Neil McKenzie. Glad to answer any questions council has.
Why we had to table this last time?
Terry?
I had this item and your next item as one item, not realizing that the deed of dedication needed to be separate.
Okay. Any information we need on this, Ms. Lewis?
I believe you have everything that you need.
Any questions from council? Okay.
So, I'm sorry, so everything has been done?
Yes, ma'am. Everything's being fine.
All right.
Motion approved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Brower, second by Ms. Taylor, to approve the acceptance of the letter of credit for grass maintenance infrastructure and required tree planting for Hickory Knob Phase 13. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor? Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Item number 2, old business, request to accept the deed of dedication for Hickory Knob Phase 13. This was tabled at our meeting of July 24th as well. Need a motion to remove from the table. A motion by Mr. Blackwell, second by Ms. Taylor, to remove item 2, old business from the table. Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
These were, as you heard from Ms. Lewis, 2 items that were together, they brought back because now they are separate.
Motion we approve.
Have a motion, need a second?
Sorry.
Have a motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Brower, to approve the acceptance of the deed of dedication for Hickory Knob Phase 13. Any question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Item number 3, old business, vote on an application filed by the Tim Kinsey with Core Design and Architecture Incorporated on behalf of Parent Incorporated, requesting final site plan approval for an expansion to an existing convenience store building. Parcel is located at 801 South Columbia Avenue and is zoned general commercial, parcel number R2720010. This item was tabled at our meeting of July 24th. Need a motion to remove from the table.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Brower, second by Mr. Blackwell to remove item 3 from the table. Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Good evening. How you?
Good, how you doing? My name is Tim Kinsey. Seeking to get approval of our site plan for the expansion of the convenience store. We're gonna add a Baldino's sandwich shop to it. It was presented to zoning, they approved the design.
Mr. Kinsler, y'all will be removing the current walls that are enclosing the current waste area, I guess, and then that's where you're gonna be adding on the new building?
Not quite. We're gonna demolish that current enclosure.
Right.
That area though, and then we're gonna move the enclosure to the opposite side of the drive, behind the old car wash.
And those parking spaces will come out at the end of the building that you're proposing to build, that were indicated in the photograph. There's like 3 spaces.
Correct. There's about 3 spaces on the side. They're now being relocated to the front.
Front, okay,
Yeah.
front side.
Yes, yes.
Will there be access between the two, the current convenience store and the Baldino's, or? will-
Only by the sidewalk out front, there's no
No
connection.
internal
No, sir.
connection?
Because another store does have that connection.
And I've done.
I think it's in Pooler. They have
Correct,
those
yes.
connections.
Yeah.
Are you making any other changes to like the pumps or anything like that when you add the store?
No, sir, the only thing, no, the exterior is, I mean, it's gonna be an extension, literally just stretching the building, be the same wall type, materials, roof, so.
You plan on painting?
I'm sure
the
they'll get a
whole
new
building?
paint job, just, the same paint, just fresh coat.
So you're not gonna paint the whole building, you're just gonna paint that one side?
Oh, no, I'm saying that when the contractor goes in, I'm sure they're gonna paint the entire facade so it matches, not have spots, No, it's, we don't, I'm not gonna let them do
Yes.
that. I'm gonna.
Sort of an off-white color now, I guess, from
Yeah.
the age, but we don't want a new section and an old.
Oh, no, yeah, I won't accept that. It'll have a entire, it'll look like a new building when it's finished.
Yeah, that's good. It needs
Yeah.
a freshen up.
And you're standing in front of me, I don't know if you're the owner of the building or not, but let's see, dump trucks parked out in front?
I can't speak on that. I'm the architect, but
Okay.
the owner, they probably have some good coffee. I don't know.
No, it's the same
They
trucks.
rent spots, to park those trucks overnight.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they pay them to park there.
But they should not.
Maybe a discussion
That's
for
a
another
discussion
time.
for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Want to see
I have those,
It's the same
18-wheeler in my neighborhood.
Any other questions for Mr. Kinsey? Or questions for staff?
What's the staff, again, was approval?
Staff recommending approval, they made any of the changes that we had asked for with them relocating the dumpster. We had asked them to go ahead and provide some additional landscaping. They're doing that. Planning and zoning board reviewed it and voted 7-0 to recommend approval.
And when is the expected, if this is approved, you expect the start time and when you expect to be complete?
They'll start pretty soon, probably within the next 30 days. They'll have a contract, break ground, completion. What's it called?
Would it be a 90 or a 120 build-out day period or something like that?
I mean, I know they're interviewing contractors right now, but I'd say, yeah, maybe 120, 180 days.
4 months, yeah.
Yeah, max.
Just don't want this to extend out.
No.
Any other questions from council? Not, a motion is in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blackwell, second by Ms. Taylor, to approve the application filed by Tim Kinsey with Core Design and Architecture Incorporated on behalf of Parath Incorporated, requesting the final site plan approval for expansion to an existing convenience store building. Property is located at 401 South Columbia Avenue. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
All right, now moving to new business. Boy, aren't we just flying through these?
Thank goodness.
Item number 1, new business, is vote on a second reading on a petition filed by Neil McKenzie with Coleman Company on behalf of Keystone Home, requesting a zoning map amendment for a 20.22 acre parcel located at 0 9th Street extension to amend the zoning from R4, single-family residential, to R8, residential multi-unit attached. Property is owned by Peter Johnson Jr. and Franklin Lamont, parcel number 213-0001. This is the second reading, and just as a reminder, the first reading, the vote was to deny this petition.
And there, just so that everyone's clear why this is coming back, there was a change in Georgia law. You're no longer just doing these things through a legislative process. You're now doing it through a quasi judicial process. and that includes your ordinances that affect zoning. And so that means any zoning change, any variance, any conditional use. These steps need to be followed with first and second readings, either way. And in addition to that, you need to list at least the reasons you did last time, but your reasons for doing it. So they're in the record.
All right, Mr. McKenzie?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I won't rehash everything that, the plan that we've talked about in the past, but I would like to just go over what we've done to date and just kind of reopen the discussion and just try to come to an agreement on where we are in the process. So this application is a request to zone from R4 to RA. The intended use is for townhomes. We do have a concept plan that shows 102 townhomes on this property. The property itself is about 20 acres. 4.5 acres of that is going to be preserved wetlands. So we would construct these 102 townhomes on the upland portion of the site, just under 15 acres. That brings the density of the site to just above 7 townhomes per acre. Comparing that to the R4 density of 4 per acre, we're not asking for something completely out of the ordinary. There is a precedent in the area. There are townhomes in the area. There is R8 in the area. And so any point about spot, owning is probably not appropriate. As far as the plan goes, we do have a concept plan. We don't have to go into that, but what we have done is we've agreed to site-specific conditions that we've kind of talked about throughout the planning board and council. And just to kind of go over those briefly, amenities on the site, perimeter buffers, additional parking, right turn lane off of West 9th Street, a bus pull-off area that we would propose to put on South Howard, as well as, places internal to this project to, for kids to play and that kind of thing, maybe a dog park, all of these things we're willing to do. To date, we had a neighborhood meeting, we've done a traffic study, we've offered to have a workshop with council, enter into a development agreement, and, negotiate special conditions as part of this plan. Last Monday, we met with staff and just talked about the project and had some good discussion about what this project might actually look like. So with that said, that's just a rehash of where we are. I'd like to invite up the folks from Keystone to come up and talk about the project, a bit more and talk about the need for what this project is offering to Lincoln.
Just kind of run back through and refresh everybody. What we're after here is workforce housing. All the new jobs in the area, the general job growth, the demand for housing has just been enormous. It is not being met, and based on everything we see without this, it will not come close to meeting the general demand. One key factor here that I know is a hot point for the council is these homes are for sale. There's no intention to rent. We've discussed how that could be worded, and we're uncertain if what's legal and what's not. They could be put in covenants to dictate that. We're expecting these to be starter families, some right sizers, and general folks working in the industry in the area. Starting prices on these, at this point in time, we expect those to be $250,000, maybe almost $300,000 for the larger two and 3 bedrooms. The larger will probably approach $300,000. To give you a little idea of what that gets you, right? Last year, our best-selling home, our 1,600 square foot, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage home was around $300,000. This year, our average price has gone up $19,000 in 12 months. Majority of that is site work cost. Building material actually came back to some normalcy. Concrete pipe, electrical panels, other things have just driven it out of the park. Availability, materials availability, labor is a key factor there. We'll have the smallest being a 2-bedroom, the larger being a 3-bedroom with a 1-car garage. So we'll have 2 off-street spots for the 2-bedroom and 3 for the 3-bedroom. Is that right, Neil? We do have a park amenity. We met with the neighbors, and their concern was, what about a place for the kids? So we had originally planned a dog park, and basically we just changed it to a regular park, put up a little covered area for a park bench for have a snack or lunch, or watch the kids play in the yard. The neighborhood maintenance, the landscape and all will be covered by an HOA in the association. So generally, most homes in the market, we do target a minimal exterior maintenance, whether that be hardy board or vinyl siding. It's just to lower the cost of long-term ownership. I mentioned the town hall. We had 30 or 35 people show for that. I thought it was very good turnout considering. We had main concerns being traffic and road safety. We have, thanks to Neil's study, figured out how to put a bus stop off of, not on 9th Street, but on the adjoining street, where the bus could come down and stop, allow children to get on and off without being in the 9th Street corridor. The traffic in general has been a concern. I'm sure that's been brought up a lot. We did a full traffic study on it. It is saying it's a very minimal impact. Didn't even advise a turn lane, if I recall. I mentioned the place to play in general green space, and that's kind of what we're proposing. We tried to hit all the spots, all the requirements and everything that council and the neighbors were concerned with. I did think Adrian wanted to say something. Where'd you go? Right behind.
Hi, I'm Adrian Weber. I'm a resident, trying to deal with these reading glasses, sorry. I'm a resident of Rincon for 8 years, and I'm the market director for Realty Companies, which is a local land and commercial brokerage. Got an office here in Rincon, and I also represent Keystone Homes and the purchase of the Johnson's property. You kind of stole my thunder on a few points, but I'll just move through these quickly. Keystone Homes obviously is a local builder, very established in the city, and has developed such neighborhoods such as Hickory Knob, or the last phases of Hickory Knob, Timberlake, and just down the street from Mr. Johnson's property, the said property that's we're asking to rezone is Sherwood Place. Keystone Homes purchased those lots in Sherwood Place back in 2021, and we sold those lots to him for $35,000 a piece. And in today's market, similar lots have doubled in price. Not to mention the higher building costs and increasing interest rates. To build the same type of starter home on Mr. Johnson's property, homes would average between the mid to high 400s. Which would be extremely challenging to sell in between multiple mobile home parks. Townhomes, we feel, are truly the best housing product for this property. If the city truly wants affordable non-rental homes, we see this as really the best option. And as he had mentioned, they would range between the 200s and the mid to high 200s, which is really difficult to purchase a new house that you can actually purchase, in that price range in this market. If the traffic concerns and the child safety, are the main concerns, Keystone's offering locations for bus stop and to route the bus through the community, allowing traffic off of 9th Street, which is a really big concern in the morning because the buses have nowhere to go other than to stop and block traffic. So that would allow that to flow without interruption. And this would allow, this alone would greatly address these concerns, and not to mention they're open to sidewalks as well as a decel lane. I was also recently informed that the city already has plans to widen 9th Street to a 3-lane road with a turning lane. If this property is approved for rezoning tonight, it will be at least 18 to 24 months before a townhome is even available to purchase. So we're not asking to be able to have these homes, built even next year. We're not even scheduled to close on the property till the end of this year. So we're talking, between 1.5 to 2 years down the road. You see, this property's been up for rezoning to my knowledge, I've been twice, but I know that at least 3 times in the last 2 years, from R4 to R8 or some higher level of density. And it's been denied for the same reasons, such as traffic concerns and child safety. And the city, I haven't seen that the city has put their plans into action to widen that road. And I ask that you consider allowing this development to propel the city's plans forward to solve today's traffic issues and provide more affordable housing, and let's work together to do so. Thank you.
Any questions for these individuals or staff? This is the second reading, so we had an opportunity at the first reading to have much discussion, but maybe some additional information.
Multi-family attached can be sprinkled.
I don't believe so.
Code does not require.
Yes.
But concerning the sprinklers, Mr. McKenzie, will there be a firewall between the two, since they're individual townhomes, between each one?
Yes, sir. I'm not
Fire
100%
rating sheet.
familiar with the code, but I believe there is a firewall between the townhomes.
That's correct.
All the way up through the ceiling.
All the way through to the bottom of the roof sheathing. Yes, sir. They're basically 2 houses built within about 1 inch apart. And they have a double wall on either side of that air gap. And Myron, that's a 3-hour wall. There's rated as a 3-hour wall. We have built, unfortunately, we had a neighbor test a 3-hour wall in one of our previous projects. A house on the end burned down, and all it did to the adjoining property was melt some of the siding and some of the trim work around the front. House is completely undamaged, not even any smoke, because they're separated.
Air gap and.
Correct. And there's a very strict code on how you build that wall and any penetrations through that wall. And that is from the foundation all the way to the roof. And sprinklers are not required for residential housing. There's a push for it in some parts of the country. It is not made it into Georgia.
It was multi-level housing.
If it were an apartment complex, multi-level, or a condo stacked flats, I believe it does fall into that place. But as individual towns, it does not.
Mr. Kirkland, you have a question?
Yeah, I did. You addressed a lot of things, but one thing you didn't address was, which is a big one, is drainage. There's already drainage issues over there now. So how are you planning on addressing those drainage issues once you start tearing down trees, and what's the plan?
The trees are already torn down. The property was cleared about 5 years ago.
Well, there's still.
It's
major
scrubbed
drainage
there, yeah.
issues.
Right.
So how do you-
And it's
how
a
do you
great
plan on
question.
addressing
And, as part of this type of project, we would, there is planned detention ponds, right? So this site drains currently to a wetland, right? And then that wetland drains south of us, through, what's the name of the street, behind us? But there's a ditch that runs from our property corner. It's actually the same ditch that runs down Howard Street, runs through Broom Lane, and then all the way to the creek. So what the idea is our ponds would outfall to the wetlands, in a controlled rate, right? And then we would do improvements to make sure that ditch remained open and continue to de-water that wetland, so it wouldn't flood any of the properties next to us. So there was a neighbor in the public hearing that came up that talked about this. He actually owns the house next, on the other side of the wetland, and we do have some room in there to, you know, to make sure that we don't let stormwater flow onto his property. So we would improve the ditch to make sure that it's at an elevation that's low enough so it'll drain that wetland and not flow onto his property.
And you talked great, Tim, does that sound right to you? It sounds good to me, but
Yeah, they'd have to do some improvements on the ditch over there. Because that ditch runs all the way, like I said, through Broom Lane, all the way down to the creek.
Dasher Creek. And there is, so Broom Lane has a culvert that's underneath it where this ditch, you know, passes under. We would ensure that that is sized correctly, as well as anything upstream. So Howard Street does drain that same way. So we would make sure that the ditch is improved in a way that it would handle all that flow and de-water that wetland to keep flow from that, you know, from that other piece of property. And we do know the Cowans. We can get any easements from them that are, you know, that are needed to improve this ditch. And the Cowans own that property there.
That's great, I really appreciate that. No, I was just gonna say, I think for council, I think what my biggest concern is, you don't have but a few properties that are R8, and they've been that way. We didn't make them R8s, they've been that way for a long time. I guess my concern is, do we really want an R8 there?
No.
It's a big concern of mine. It's that's a lot of houses in a small amount of space. I do appreciate you guys making the bus lane and doing a lot of things. I really concern myself with doing R8 right there. I mean, I just have concerns with it. And does our master plan, not our master plan, what do you call it?
Comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan, what does it say for that area?
I am trying to remember, I don't think it was specific. You know, it probably said something like residential, you know, or future development. I mean, it certainly didn't say multifamily or single family, because the future land use is general, future land use map is generally fairly general.
It says undeveloped on our future land use map. That's the category.
And I just say, you know, undeveloped is the intention of that area, I think, is to be residential. And I'll add that I did have a piece of property zoned from R4 to R8 just down the street from here, and was also somewhat involved in the piece next to it. So there is an R8 precedent, you know, in the area.
Which R8 is that, Terry, or Jonathan?
There's Sherwood Townhome, the Sherwood Townhome piece.
The townhome, but that was with townhomes, and we had them reduce their townhomes from, I want to say, like 20 to down to 16 or something, right?
We ended up with 15.
Yeah, 15, yeah. I do remember that.
What was it?
The one right behind it. There's nothing.
I do remember that. But we had them to reduce it because we were concerned about the density of that area. I do remember that.
Staff have a list of reasons, I think drainage and traffic were definitely two, but the original reasons why it was denied, do you have those?
Sure, so you're right, so it was definitely they were concerned about traffic, before planning and zoning board, concerns about traffic and safety, those were the two biggest things, and those were what, both planning and zoning board had concerns about those, and those were what were brought up at the public meeting that the developers had with the surrounding neighborhood.
So traffic and road safety were the main reason?
Traffic and just general safety, so both just more development in that area, the bus drop off was definitely part of that.
What other options do you guys have besides going R4, besides going R8?
The cost just gets out of hand. What is going on is the cost of site work. So if you look in the general area, Effingham County is 60-foot lots are kind of the new norm. And across our product line, across our footprint, which is Savannah, Augusta, Statesboro, it's 60 feet is the new norm for detached housing. And was mentioned $35,000 is what we paid for lots back there. Those were started about 4 years ago when the property was beginning underway. What we're looking at now is $80,000 to $90,000 lots for 60-foot lots, which don't fall under any zoning currently in the city of Rankin. And by the time you do that, and then you put a house on there worthy of an $80,000 lot, you're bouncing around $400,000 for a house that's in between an old apartment complex and a trailer park. And we don't see how we can sell that. It doesn't make sense.
So what's the meet in the middle point? Because I can't speak for anybody else, but it's gonna be hard for us to do R8. We know we need houses, but what's your next point of, okay, well, let's try and meet council in the middle? Because it's apparent by what has happened so far that it's not gonna happen. So what's your meet in the middle point to give us something to work with? Because right now, you're not giving us anything to work with but to deny it. We want the housing, we want you guys to come, but we want you to come with something that suits us a little bit better than what you have here.
I hear you and understand your concerns. The problem is it's not economically feasible for us to do that on a piece of property of this size. You get down into, 35 to 50 sites on a piece of property like that, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. The amount of effort and it takes to get it developed, built out. If somebody else built it, I would buy it, but I wouldn't do the site work and do the development. You've got 2 neighborhoods, you've got entrance features, you've got wetlands delineation, you've got questionable soil. You get through all of that, and the risk is just too high. We're pretty close to the point where it doesn't make financial sense at 102 towns. It's just, that's where we've become. The home lot and home size is just gonna continue to shrink as far as I can see in front of us for affordability. We went from 3% mortgages to 6.6 3/4, 7%. So each individual home buyer is staring for the same home a year and a half ago is costing them another $1,200 a month for the same home. So combine that with current homeowners who the majority are in somewhere around 3%, and they don't want to leave, they don't want to sell. So there's very little to buy in the resale market. So it's pretty much a new construction market right now. It's what's happening. And it's just a matter of what someone can afford to buy. I mentioned the $300,000 a year ago. That was one number, but it was at 3% for half the year. And as the rates went up, you can look at our rate of sales. It stopped. It came to a crawl as people panicked, and it has picked back up because of the growth in the marketplace. My peers across the nation are struggling a lot more. We're just blessed by geography and the growth we're having here is what's driving it.
Ms. Laura has a question.
Was actually just clarification, was this a second reading, but it had already been denied? How did we get to it being a second reading? I missed what Raymond said about that. How did it end up here as a second reading today?
It's required by ordinance,
By what ordinance?
by the charter and the ordinance for reading of zoning matters.
As a second reading today? Okay.
If you look under the charter provision, it's contained in the charter.
Okay, so even just because, even though they had already said no, they voted it down on the first reading, it still has to come back to a second. So you were presenting an updated information, am I caught up to where we're at with this process? 102 units on 9th Street? That's the R4 to R8 is for 102?
102 in total on the property, yes.
Okay, and who did your traffic study?
Scott,
All right, let's not have this conversation from the audience. Please come up if you want to, if you have a question, and let's discuss it.
I do. Thank you. Lori Eichman, 212 Pineland. I'm trying to understand when the developers are coming up here and saying that they're having a traffic study, doing the traffic study, and who's that traffic study verified by? I just can't believe for the life of me that on 21, where he couldn't get an entrance, for that build because there was gonna be a turn lane and everything, we have 102 new units coming and there's no impact on traffic. That blows my mind. So I just wondered who's doing the traffic studies, who's verifying the traffic studies? Is it somebody you guys all trust and know? Like, where does that come from?
Mr. McKenzie, can you address that?
Sure. The study was completed by Scott Burns. He's a local engineer. He's been doing studies here for a long time. He's well respected. He is a licensed engineer, so. And then as far as who reviews it, it's staff, and then when the project goes to site plan approval, then it would be reviewed by the engineers.
And he's paid by you?
He's paid by the property owner, by the purchaser.
Okay, so the contention of that engineer is that 102 potential units back there is gonna have minimal to no impact and doesn't require a turning lane. And we're gonna try and do it quickly because there's some change to 9th Avenue coming that none of the rest of us know about?
That's correct. So the study came back and said that we did not need a turn lane off of West 9th. There are problems with, west of us on McCall and Hodgeville and that area. There are problems on 21, but the corridor and our site entrance, there is no issue.
There is no issue.
That's right.
That's the contention, okay.
Can I speak?
Personally, I would just ask that this stay R4. I don't see that we have the infrastructure, the ordinances, the updated laws, the updated building codes, the updated neighborhood information, the updated drainage, the updated anything to absorb anything R8 in that area. But that's just my opinion, and thank you for letting me speak.
I'm gonna speak from the last month's experience, because my kids just left Rincon, because they were tired of all this. The warehouses and the mess, and they moved down on McCall Road to get a little bit of, they still love Rincon, and they want to stay close enough, but they just want to get out of the madness. And so I'm going down 9th Street all the time, picking up the grandkids, taking them back. That 9th Street is a mess. I mean, it's a mess. And the idea that you're gonna put anything else on there, much less upgrade to an R8, it's just not feasible for those poor people over there. And let me give some historical content to the 9th Street neighborhood. That's always been a sweet little family neighborhood. Those people have been there forever. We're destroying their community over there. But I'm gonna say something else. These developers come in, and no offense, I'm all about you making money. I like to make money my own self. But we don't charge property taxes. 102 houses, how much service do they need? We're not making any money off 102 water bills. And a lot of us have been doing some research on the city of Rincon and how badly maintained it's been and how much we need to do. And now we're gonna bring 102 more people in here. We've got a service and we can't take care of, we haven't been maintaining the golf courses or the ballparks. And we're running out of money. We can't keep bringing people in and servicing them until we figure out how to provide for all these people. And I keep saying we need a moratorium and a pause to figure this out. I don't care what Brian Kemp wants, okay? I know Brian Kemp's legacy is a greater Georgia, and I voted for him. But our community's not gonna die on that power for him. And I don't know who else wants more houses. Because I don't think you're gonna find any citizens here that want more houses. Not right now. And we're glad you love Rinkin, but we've got to fix the messes. You know, don't go out there fixing anything else till you fix what you got. And guys, we got a lot to fix. And I don't know where you're gonna find the money to keep servicing all these people. And I'm still waiting to see what all this dumping into the traffic circle from C1 is gonna do to the school over there on 4th Street. But R4 to R8 is what you're considering. And we just turned down a man on Fort Howard Road from R4 to R5. And we can't do it. We've got to stop the rezoning. If you want to build here and you buy your property, figure out how to build on it. But I'm gonna tell you, 2 or 3 nice houses on there would be really nice.
We don't own the property.
I'm just kidding. But I'm just telling you, everybody's got stars in their eyes from what's happening in Effingham County. Everybody can sell a 5-acre lot with a trailer on it for several $1 million now. But the city of Rinkin can't afford anybody else. So please help us and stop the madness, please. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Any comments? All right, if there's no, Kim McKenzie, you have anything?
Just in case.
If there's no other conversation, then a motion would be in order.
Yeah, like, the motion, we got a responsibility to our current residents in that area. You got traffic concerns and affordable housing. Somebody's gonna make a lot of money off that, and I'm all for that, and all for capitalism and the free market system. However, it's not the city of Rinkin's job to provide that and to change zoning for that. However, it is our responsibility to make sure that our current residents are protected and we impact traffic as little as possible. In a perfect world, we'd have a magic wand and we could run around, but with that being said, I think it's important. And also, as Mr. Kirkland said, there are some situations where R8 has been approved, but approving this would be one more step down that slippery slope. And again, we got issues we need to take care of in that area before we start zoning to R8, in my opinion. That being said, I'll make a motion to deny.
Have a motion. Entertain a second.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Brower, second by Mr. Kirkland to deny a second reading on a petition filed by Neil McKenzie with Coleman Company on behalf of Keystone Homes, requesting a zoning map amendment for a 20.22 acre parcel located on 0 and 9th Street extension to amend the zoning from R4 single family to R8 residential. Property is owned by Peter Johnson Jr. and Franklin Lamont. Any other question or discussion?
I want to challenge you guys to come back with something that's a little better for us. I was a little disappointed when you guys said, no, there's nothing else that you guys can do but do an R4 to R8. There's something, and I need you guys to, if you truly are looking to bring homes to Effingham County and to Rinkin, I think you can come up with something. I really do, because there's been a few other developers who've been able to do that, and I think you can do it.
Any other question or discussion?
You better ask that question.
Can we withdraw?
That's up to them. You can make a request and it's up to them.
Make a request to withdraw the application.
Hey, Dave, can I say something? If you deny something.
Come up and state your name.
Okay, TJ, or if you deny something on the second meeting, does that mean that when they come back, they can come back in 6 months and they can say, hey, I don't want to do that. We're going to come up with something else. Is that what happens when you deny something? Say you table it, you put it to the side. So does that mean they can come back in 6 months when everybody's asleep and they can put up something else?
Not if it's tabled, no.
If it's tabled.
Property hostage.
No, but I mean, my question is, if you table it, what are the rules for what happens? Do they bring it back up the next
We're not
meeting?
tabling, they're requesting to withdraw the request.
I
Okay,
withdraw
so,
my motion, Mayor, and this is what we've done, we've got precedent. If someone comes before us and formally requests a withdrawal of that particular agenda item, we have passed, in every case I know of, withdrawn, and they will come back with a different plan later, different zoning.
like he suggested.
That's their prerogative.
Yeah.
Right now, if we denied it right now, they would have to wait 6 months to come back.
But the reason I'm asking is because, you go to the, commissioners meeting and they tabled it. They tabled an issue with warehouses, which is everybody's main condition, that's later on, I see. But if they table it or they can come back, we can't talk in the third meeting. Is that how it normally works when you come before somebody? You can't speak? Because we were told in the meeting, if you listen to the tape, we're not allowed to talk at the commissioners meeting, tomorrow night. And it's at 5 o'clock when nobody's gonna be there because, I mean, it's the first thing on the agenda. So I'm just trying to figure out how it works here. So the traffic that I live in, I live off Goshen and we're not considered city, but think about it. You're ruining our community, you're ruining our environment, you're destroying our habitats. There's more dead animals everywhere. If you can't see it, look out your window. But y'all gotta really wake up and take care of us because we live here. And you know that in 21, that new warehouse popped up and you're going to Springfield, that's ugly. And you're going down 21 and you can't get down 21. And it's gonna be worse as time goes by. And you go down Augusta, there's warehouses going up there. I know, everybody owns land over there. But you gotta realize you're hurting what you got. And like the apartments, they don't pay any taxes at all. You got all those people there.
We hear that, we're here now to answer the question.
Okay,
about
I
the
just wanted to say
withdrawal
something.
and the process, so.
I'll be back.
But we live here too.
Now, what's your name? I'm sorry, we didn't get to the right.
Yeah,
TJ Harmon.
Yes, sir.
All right, so, Mr. Brower, you withdrawing your motion?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Kirkland, you withdraw your second?
Yes.
And Mr. McKenzie, just to make sure for the record, we are correct, you are withdrawing your request
Yes, sir.
for the petition.
That is correct.
All right, that concludes that item.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is a vote on the second reading of an ordinance to annex 5.08 acre parcel located at 801 Augusta Road South. Property is owned by Mannheim Shipping Line LLC, parcel number 04750057A00. And I believe I saw some communication where they asked to, table this
Our
item.
attorney has requested that be tabled and then be next.
Okay, do they want to table to the next meeting?
Very next meeting.
Table to the meeting of August the 24th.
28.
Okay, any motion for that?
Make a motion to table items in new business 2 and 3 to August 28th.
We'll just.
Just one at a time?
We'll do the-
Okay.
Yeah.
2 to August 28th.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blackwell, second by Ms. Taylor to take 2 new business to the meeting of August the 28th. Any question or discussion? Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
You heard the request on number 3. That is also the request to table to August the 28th. I'll give that motion.
I'll make it to the table with item 3 also.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Blackwell, second by Ms. Taylor to table item 3, new business, until the meeting of August 28th. Any question or discussion? Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Item number 4, new business, is the vote on an application filed by Stephanie Harris with Trammell Prow Pro Company on behalf of CTC Phase 1 owner LP, requesting site plan approval for Phase 1 of Coastal Trade Center Warehouse, which includes the roadway and buildings 3, 4, and 5. The property is located on Highway 21. Parcel is owned by CTC Phase 1 owner LP and is zoned limited industrial. Parcel number R2830001. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Council. Chad Zitrow with Kernan Company. I'm here representing Trammell Crow. With me tonight is Drew Frederick with Trammell Crow, as well as CTC Phase 1, which is the owner of the property. The application before you tonight, this property has been before you several times through rezoning requests, annexation requests, from subdivision plat, development agreements, things of that nature. This is a specific site plan for 3 buildings and a roadway to the north side of Polly Creek. It is in compliance with everything within the development agreement. I think all staff's comments have been addressed, and we have a recommendation for approval from staff and the planning board, to the best of my knowledge. Other than that, I'll be glad to answer any questions, or Mr. Frederick with Trammell Crow's here to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from Mr. Zitrow?
Not Mr. Zipwire, but for Raymond. Raymond, anything different in this development agreement than our previous ones that we need to be aware of?
That's a development agreement with Greenland. And this property was part of that tract, and Greenland owned it and signed the development agreement. And this company here purchased 400 acres from Greenland and JW. There's 2 companies, but they purchased it, and the partial assignment of this agreement. So this agreement covers this property.
So basically what we did is J&W and Greenland kept the responsibilities of fire station site dedication, future road dedication, some of the green space stuff. And then they assigned some of the water and sewer reservations and some of the commitments to install water mains and sidewalks and things of that nature. So it was a partial assignment, but everything that was agreed to in the overall agreement still remains and will take place.
Chad, if you want to show us what you're talking about.
So every bit of this is gonna fall under the Greenland?
Yes.
So who's doing the
Should've asked for
sidewalks and
more.
who's doing the prep? And I guess that's what my concern is, because building 1 is towards the front of the road. When are the improvements gonna happen to the road? When is the light gonna start getting done? Is that
we're
your
building-
area or is that building 1?
Sorry, we're constructing buildings 3, 4, and 5 at this point, and those are the ones that are construction. Up near Highway 21 is the roadway coming in first. So building 1 is actually the last building to be constructed.
Okay.
As part of this development, we're building the roadway all the way up past building 3. So everything is coming in through that standpoint. And then the water connection goes south of building 4 and ties over to the GERT building that is currently under construction. So all of that is kind of how everything ties together.
And just to clarify, as part of the development agreement for the sidewalks, in the development agreement, they're gonna contribute a portion of what the sidewalks would have cost to the city, so we could put sidewalks in the other parts of the city. So there won't actually be sidewalks in the development for the development agreement.
Right, I thought it was supposed to go to the new park.
Yes, that's.
It is, so
That's where my.
we basically put a budget
Only
together.
a partial is gonna go? How about all of it?
I thought it was all of it.
So I think it's 50% of what the sidewalks would cost.
Correct. We put a budget together and turn that into the city engineer. They review it, and then we make a cash contribution for that.
When is the light supposed to go up?
So basically, DOT has indicated that, and we're pursuing as exponentially as we possibly can. They've indicated for us to do reports as these facilities open, do traffic counts twice a year, every 6 months. And as soon as they meet the warrants that are required by DOT to install the signal will be installed not at DOT's expense, it's installed at our expense. So basically, we go do a study, as soon as they allow it to be approved, then we install the signal at our expense.
What's that threshold? Can you make sure that staff has that threshold as well?
They'll be monitoring it closely, just
They
like
being DOT?
staff and us.
So,
We want the signal in as bad as you guys want it.
well, so here's my issue, right? You know, we got one lane that was shut down on, I think that was Friday, for a couple of hours, and it backed up traffic all the way over the hump, right? So that's where my concern is, right? And we're talking, it was the middle of the afternoon. And when you guys start pulling trucks in and out of there, traffic's gonna back up regardless of what time of day. So that's why we're so concerned about that light.
So basically, we've already indicated to DOT that as this project builds out, then signal warrants will be met. And so they won't do it projectively on a roadway that's already in place. So the best we could do and the best we could negotiate was, we're gonna monitor this traffic as often as we can. As soon as we meet the warrants and thresholds, then, and that's what our study says, as soon as we meet the warrants and thresholds, we will move forward with installing the signal. And what we've been talking about is going to get the design done, get all the bidding done, get everything done, so that the last thing to take place is we meet the warrants and then we can move forward.
And what is that threshold? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's approximately 2.5 of the buildings occupied. So
2.5.
not just constructed in there, but we've got to have the counts from the actual traffic coming through. So we're building 3 buildings. It's somewhere between buildings 2 and 3, when those come online, and when the counts are in place, then it will meet that threshold.
It's roughly 2 million square feet. We'd like to get the light installed as soon as possible, but.
Yeah, so do we. Maybe we can reach out to Ann Purcell and, Jonathan, and she could come and talk to us about it.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. We would love your support on that.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from council or information needed? Anything from staff as far as recommendations or further information?
No, they've met the requirements of the ordinance. Planning and Zoning Board reviewed it at their July meeting and voted 5-1 to recommend approval.
Also, can you please go ahead and plant some pretty stuff in front, because I'm really tired of looking at all that. I mean, I'd really like some buffer to block off, and I think the public would like that.
Yes.
There's quite a bit of buffer in front of this, you know, for this site, and this site just recently started getting cleared, so.
See all the way down through there.
On the new clearing or the building that's in place now?
The only.
This is north of Polly Creek.
As far is right along through here. And there's been some other stuff back here, but this is the only thing you can see from the road. This is all existing wetlands that is not gonna be touched. And this is, some businesses and some residences. And there's a 100 and some odd foot buffer separating the property lines. So I mean, we are sitting back from the road. It's not like you're gonna see the road. These buildings predominantly from the road.
All right, the front part, right there.
Yeah, you'll see this, all this is blocked. The buildings you're referring to that are under construction are down right there.
Yeah.
That's not part of our project.
Okay. I just want it to be pretty.
Well, we did have, I mean, we've been working with the city to show a, you know, a nice sign. We want to have nice landscaping out front. We don't, look, I mean, I've built these types of projects in other areas that, you know, where same concerns are there. We want a good looking sign. We want good looking plantings. And there are a couple of examples. There are also a couple of examples, you know, that are not good. And that's not, I mean, Trammell Crow Company is the largest developer in the country. We have, you know, we are consistently, I mean, we build great products, and we will have a top-notch entry and landscaping out front.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Make a motion to approve.
A motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Brower to approve application filed by Stephanie Harris with Trammell Crow Company. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all very much.
Item number 5 is an application that's been filed by Marhawk Properties LLC requesting site plan approval to construct a 1-story commercial daycare with fenced-in playground. Property is located at 615 Town Park Loop. Parcel is owned by Marhawk Properties LLC. and it's zone general commercial, parcel number R2640015. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Brianna Durrance. I live at 121 Chapel Park Road in Guyton. I am here on behalf of Marhawk Properties. We are wanting to construct a single-story childcare center, just kind of behind Empire Gym is where it's at. We want to hold approximately about 120 to 140 students, depending on the age groups that I decide to do, looking to do infants to 4-year-olds. We will have a fenced-in playground. We're looking to do like an iron nice style, tall fencing, 3 separate playgrounds for age appropriate. There will be it's all worded by the state, appropriate fall zone for the playground, so it's gonna be safe. I'll have proper lighting that we need. Everything is pretty laid out by the state, so we'll have it ready. We're just ready to break ground.
Well, I want to thank you for bringing this to Rincon, because you're going to fill up so fast, your head will spin.
Yeah, I'm already getting calls and I don't have a waiting list.
It is very much needed, very much.
Yeah.
Is there a franchise name that comes along with this yet, or?
No, so I will be owning it, and my name will be Small World Learning Center LLC.
Small World Learning Center.
My main concern is it's right next to a detention pond in that whole development area that you're planning to build. And the fencing, I just want to make sure that if you're going to have cast iron, or I mean not cast iron, but aluminum style fencing is what you said?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's really set in stone just yet about the fencing, but we're gonna make sure it looks nice and whatever fits the.
The spacing needs to be very narrow so those little toddlers can't squeeze through
Yes.
because they
Yeah.
can. And that it's not climbable by the toddlers either because
Yeah,
they're
the state
climbers.
is very specific about what you're able to use.
And that detention
So-
pond is probably about 4 or 5 feet deep,
Yeah.
which is deeper than they are taller.
Yeah.
That was my main concern, was the fence along that area.
So the fencing that I've been looking at, probably 8 to 10 inches apart. I mean, it's pretty narrow. So, one childcare center that I've actually been talking to about what to use, what not to use is Primrose and Fuller. They just built one,
Okay.
and they're fencing. So if you wanted to look it up, that would be kind of what we're looking for. They have a similar problem. They're right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, in the heart of Fuller, so.
Well, I'm very excited about this because it is needed very, very badly.
2 children who need childcare, so.
I get people ask me about it all the time. We need more childcare, we need more childcare.
I'm not doing a waiting list now, so I'm not taking phone calls like that, but as soon as I'm able to get closer, when the building is complete, I'll open it up and we'll do some kind of fun lottery or something. I have a feeling I'll be flooded with calls, so.
Okay.
Any other questions from Ms. Durrance?
And this is for final site plan, or just?
Yes.
This is for final site plan?
Staff information and recommendation?
They met all the requirements, they work closely with us, and I would echo too, the state has very strict requirements above and beyond what we require. They come out and do their own inspections of daycare sites, childcare sites. So they'll certainly be looking at things like the fence, and other things like that. But anyway, the Planning and Zoning Board did, review this and recommended approval unanimously.
If there are no other questions, a motion would be in order.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Blackwell to approve application filed by Marhawk Properties LLC requesting final site plan approval. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Item number 6, new business, request to modify the contract with Spatial Engineering Incorporated for White Spot Services to increase the monthly budget amount from $3,000 per month to $3,800 per month. Look, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. Basically, the Right Spot GIS Services is the GIS system we provide the city. And what we're looking at is the on-call support, which varies depending on what your needs are. Just to give you a little bit of history, the lowest usage you've had was in 2015 when you averaged about $350 a month. The next highest was in 2021 when things started picking up at $3,255 per month. This year, we basically set our budget at $3,000 per month on average. But this year, there's been a lot of activity and you're averaging $3,800 a month, just over $3,800. So that's what I'm requesting as a contract mod to move it from the $3,000 to $3,800 to cover whatever request and analysis and type stuff that they need. It's not my fault y'all are jumping and growing.
This is a question. How far behind are you guys in updating that web page? Are we like a month behind?
The data?
Yes. 2 months.
We update basically whenever we get the data, so it's not unusual for the city to come over and just dump a bunch of drawings. Like a lot of the stuff you've seen thrown up here eventually ends up in our office to get put into the system. We've updated everything we've been given. Typically, the latency falls on how quick you get the data. It's not how quick you give it to us, but more in how quick you get it from everyone else.
When we have a free moment, can we schedule a workshop for him to go over? I mean, I saw it several years ago when you came in and did a nice little workshop for us and showed us some things around. I think it'd be helpful to do that again.
Yeah.
So you guys can see it and like maybe after the election, maybe?
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We use them a lot.
It's their fault. Trust me, it's their fault. I don't know what to say. It's their fault.
We come across a water main that's not on that, well, you don't, Jacob document, sends it straight over to the rigs so they can put it in the system. It's saved us quite a few times.
I'll make a motion.
Shut the water down the whole city.
Hold on. I understand that I'm not talking about the increase. I'm talking about what we're doing with, what is this? Is this a motion to amend the budget? Or is it just to increase the budgeted amount? Because the wording on here needs to be different as well. Well, I'm after.
I read it as increasing the budgeted amount for them. That's how I read it. So
We need a
it's-
budget amendment.
Yeah, so budget amendment.
So,
But what's the account number? Because I hadn't seen what it was.
We need to table it until we can figure out, I mean,
well, I think Mr. True
I mean, it's gonna pass, it's just, how do we do it right?
needs to be,
Could we approve it pending a budget amendment?
Yes, sir, and there, the budget amendment, yes, there's a money in that budget line item for this, and then the next item is to amend the contract to actually run on our fiscal year, because right now it doesn't. So this would just be for the 4 months until December 31st, and then have a new contract period that would match our fiscal year going forward, so yes.
so if I heard what you said, the line item that pays for this, there's enough money to cover this increase. Okay, well then you don't have an issue with doing an amendment to the budget. It's just changing the amount. If that is the case.
Just the amount you pay, it's not changing the budget at all.
So,
So if we go forward and then we go over that budget, at that point, we're gonna do an amendment.
yeah, absolutely. So really what Mr. Trill is asking for is an increase in the contract, is that correct?
The contract is based on an assumed amount of work that you may need for the year.
Correct.
And when the contract was put in place, it was assumed, based on what we've done over the past years, $3,000 a month on average would be what you would need support for. This year has been very active. And instead of 3, it's been running more like 38. This line item in our contract is the time and material. If you don't do anything, you don't pay anything, and we don't use the budget. So there have been years where we've budgeted, we've never used any of it.
Yeah, but we don't roll from year to year.
We don't roll from year to year, that is correct, and if you don't use it, if there's no request, it's never spent, as far as you're concerned.
So that's what I'm saying, just because it wasn't spent in FY '22 doesn't mean we have it in FY '23.
That's correct, it doesn't mean as far as me, I mean, I don't know how the city handles their budget, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter.
So the motion is just to change the contract.
Yeah, we're not changing anything in regards to the budget. We're changing the contract amount, and if it comes towards the end of the year and a budget amendment is necessary, you'll bring it to us.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the motion should actually be to increase the monthly amount. The budget word budgeted should be strict.
Right, that's good.
Okay, Mr. Kirkland, do you amend your motion to that effect?
Hold on, so I just want to make sure I'm right. If we're spending 38, so we're changing it from 3,000, not the budgeted amount, but just 3,000 per month is what we have contracted. You
The
want to
contract price.
You
is
want to change it to
requested
3,800 per month.
30.
There is money in the budget, because I just did the math, because I see what's here. So yes, I do amend my, but I had to talk through that. I'm a talker. Sorry.
And Mr. Brower has amended his second. So we have a motion by Mr. Kirkland and a second by Mr. Brower to modify the contract with Spatial Engineering Incorporated for right spot services to increase the monthly amount from 3,000 per month to 3,800 per month. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
All right, and then the next item is to modify the contract. Request to modify the contract with Spatial Engineering Incorporated for the right spot services to extend the contract end date and budgeted from August 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brower, second by Ms. Taylor to modify the contract with Spatial Engineering to extend the budget from August 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. Any other question or discussion?
So we'll be coming back with another contract in January or probably December for a 12-month guide. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Sounds like it provides a good service to us.
I hope so, we're not spending this money for nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For 8, new business, Ms. Charlene Reynolds, request to appear to the council.
Charlene Reynolds, East Myrtle Street, Lincoln. I've been here before. The reason I wanted to appear is to discuss an ordinance, okay, to set an ordinance. That's what I had requested, on that request I got from Ms. King, to set an ordinance if one does not exist, to prohibit an entrance to a commercial property from a residential / subdivision street. This is not specific to 0 Magnolia Street in Brookhaven subdivision, but would apply to all subdivisions in Lincoln. People seem to forget we are a subdivision. We're not just a residential area. And I looked all through Ms. King emailed me a copy of the subdivision ordinances, and I received it on Monday, 7/31. There was nothing in the ordinances that addressed a commercial property within a Rincon subdivision. I also copied from the Effingham County's Code of Ordinances, their subdivision regulations, and there was nothing in those subdivision ordinances that addressed a commercial property within a subdivision. you know, this is where our whole thing our problems have stemmed from, is the entrance, the egress and ingress, okay, from that commercial property on our residential subdivision street, okay? It is going to create more problems. I know the last time that we were here, that property on Zero Magnolia was withdrawn by the owner. He decided not to build those storage houses on the GC lot. That took care of the problem then. We also were here before a year ago talking about some townhomes that he wanted to build on his lot. But again, that didn't pass. It appears, though, that if we don't address this now, it's going to keep rearing its ugly head. I mean, it'll be 6 more months. The owner will come up with another plan to develop that lot. And as I have been told, and everyone in our subdivision has been told, all 17 residences in that subdivision, we have been told it is his right to build on his property because it is rated GC. However, because he also owns the property that fronts on 21, he has an alternate way to get to his property. Yes, it would cost him money to do that, but it would solve a lot of problems for everybody. Even our attorney that Ms. Carangelo and I had retained in his letter to council and to Mr. Dickey and to Mr. Lynn, he stated that, you know, that would be a way to resolve all of this. But for right now, there needs to be some sort of ordinance under subdivisions that would prohibit an entrance from a subdivision street. I mean, no subdivisions in Rincon, and we're probably the oldest subdivision. It's probably why we're having problems, okay? We are a really old subdivision. Brookhaven is an old subdivision, probably the first subdivision. It was there when my husband and I bought our property, or we bought our house already built there. And as I've said before, I've been there 50 years. Okay, my next door neighbor's been in his house 63 years. The subdivision has been there. And when that property on Magnolia got zoned to GC, I was told sometime in 93. Well, I don't know about that because I don't live at that end of Magnolia. I mean, I don't live at that end of East Myrtle. I live at the other end of East Myrtle that intersects with Pineland. See, it's like an H. There's Pineland, there's East Myrtle, and there's Magnolia, okay? That's our subdivision. But again, we're just gonna have to keep coming back, it appears, unless something is done, unless we intend to be proactive instead of reactive, because that's what we've been all along. We've just been reacting to everything that comes up, Why not just go ahead and do something now and take care of any problems in the future? Because as I've said before, it's gonna keep coming up and coming up. Every time it comes up, it's going to create a problem. We have bus stops. We have one bus stop that's right there on the corner of Magnolia and East Myrtle. We have another bus stop down on East Myrtle and Pineland, and a bus stop up on Magnolia and Weisenbaker. I mean, we have children that get on and off that school bus all the time. I mean, I know we have delivery trucks, we have things like that, but to have a lot more traffic than what we have, we're endangering our children. I think right now, just on those streets I mentioned, we have 15 children. And I observed them on the second day of school. See, I'm on the corner. My kitchen window looks right out there on that corner of Pineland and East Myrtle. And I counted 7 children at that bus stop that morning. And down on the other corner, there are 3 or 4 children on that corner. On the corner of Magnolia and Weisenbaker, I'm not sure how many children are there. But I mean, we have children on and off school buses. I think to have a commercial lot with an entrance onto a subdivision or residential street is just, it creates too many problems. I'm just here to ask if there can be something added. And again, a commercial lot on a subdivision street is nowhere. I mean, it's not mentioned anywhere. It's not a problem apparently, but it is a problem now because it's in our subdivision. No other subdivision I know of, and I don't know all of them, but no other subdivision I know of has a commercial lot within their subdivision. It is a problem, and I would appreciate it if you could consider adding an ordinance, setting an ordinance to prohibit an entrance to a commercial property from a residential or subdivision street under the subdivision ordinances. As I've said, there's nothing under Rincon subdivision ordinances. There's nothing under Effingham County's code of ordinance for subdivision regulations. There's nothing in any of those that addresses a commercial property. I know, and I will say this one last time, I know that it is the owner's right. But again, that thing about conditional also says it has to be something that would be safe and promote the welfare of that residential area. It doesn't do that for us. It doesn't do anything. So again, the solution would be set an ordinance to prohibit an entrance to commercial property from a subdivision street, and also have the owner, if he wants to keep building things there, have him do as our attorney asked, the entrance to that project site, if it were rerouted to Highway 21, they would experience little to no adverse effects. So, anyway, that is why I am here. I thought I would at least put something in front of you. As I've said before, we just keep being reactive. We keep reacting. Instead, let's try to be proactive. Let's try to put something in place that will stop all of this before it, as I said, rears its ugly head, because it is going to do that. I know it as sure as I'm standing here. So anyway, it's a thought, whatever you could do. I don't know, Mr. Dickey, is that even possible?
It's up to them whether they decide to do something.
You're the lawyer, you're the mayor, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have to look at it. You would probably, there's a lot of the issues involved in that. You'd probably have to go through and try to designate what roads you would you'd have to come up with some type of classification.
But see, it's not, and again, it's not specific to our street.
No,
It's not specific to
I'm
that.
not saying that it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you'd have to come up with some type of classification system for the roads in the city.
So Raymond, I was doing some research that the city of Atlanta has what they call a mixed use ordinance. Is that something that we can look at to adopt? It outlines specific things that we as a council can say, for example, it lists out create a diversified city across the spectrum of age, income, ethnicity, and culture encourage the development of multifamily housing within commercial areas, and it's called a mixed use. So it's talking about the mixed use between commercial and residential. And it outlines some pretty detailed things about things that we can do. And I think, I definitely agree with you. If we outline some things that we would like to see in a mixed use type environment, I think it'll allow these people that come in that know this is what they have to do in order to come and build in a mixed use area where there's commercial across the street, or excuse me, where there's residential across the street from commercial.
Just so that you understand, Rankin had a mixed use.
Okay.
And we had the same thing with the residents who came in complaining about it with mixed use because of issues. They wanted single-family homes, not, because the mixed use has commercial, but these townhomes, all of that. And so Rankin actually did away with the mixed use based on what the citizens wanted back when that occurred. So certainly that's a bridge that you can.
Change is coming, so we don't, I
So
think
that you
we should
can
pull it up
cross
and
again.
just look at it again. I mean, not to say that it's, a good thing or a bad thing, but I think since she's bringing it up, I think we should absolutely.
Again, we're wasting not only your precious time and the owner's precious time, but a lot of people in our neighborhood, we're wasting their precious time. And we need to come to some sort of resolution here on this thing. And I think, as far as we're concerned, that ingress and egress from that subdivision street is just not something that we want in our neighborhood, okay?
Thank you so much.
Just give it some thought, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Item number 9, new business, Ms. Lori Eichmann requested to appear before council.
I got a lot of paperwork, but I won't make you look at all of it, but I've looked at all of it. First, thank you for getting me on the agenda so quickly, Ms. King, I really appreciate that. I have a couple things, because all of this is all open records requests that I've been gathering, or people have been asking me to gather, and first things first, I've been talking about full disclosure and being frustrated that we as the citizens have felt like there wasn't full disclosure, and so I feel it's only fair to give you full disclosure. We have made some complaints to the state and to the Inspector General's office and to GMA over how the meetings are run and over some specific council people. One of those in particular, I think is really relevant to today because we don't want it to happen again. And that is that it was inappropriate to have the special meeting called for Mr. Cullum. Your ordinances, policies state that full-time employees get special called meetings. And Rob Cullum isn't an employee in any fashion. So to not only, number one, there was just we're gonna change policy, even though we don't have a policy, but there is a policy, and have that meeting was an issue, then to not let the public speak violates GMA. So there's all kinds of problems. So for just the purposes of full disclosure, we noticed, we're upset. We are asking for there to be some oversight with the meetings. And I think the Rob Cullum situation really brought to the forefront how we're not effectively using our meetings and why some of us feel like executive session is a privilege and should be closed. So first and foremost, the most of us in the community feel like the police chief did absolutely 100% the right thing going to Jonathan and saying we need to have an opinion. Number two, Jonathan absolutely did the right thing, reaching out to the council members and the mayor and saying that there's an issue, there's not a policy, and I gotta make a decision. That's what we pay them for. And the fact that it was pointed out here that there was no policy, so we all should have talked about it, is insane. It's insane. We have a city attorney who is a chief safety officer to not have a policy in place about how backgrounds are gonna be run.
Ma'am,
Who's
it's not
going to
my
read 'em?
job
I'm
to
sorry,
do
it's
all
my
of the
turn to speak.
policies in the city.
It is my
It's
turn
up
to
to this
speak.
council
We
and
can
this city
go along with you,
manager
Mr.
to
Solicitor,
do,
Mr. City
policy.
Attorney. And I,
it's not my job to do that.
right? I mean, don't you?
Well, I'm just telling you, it's not my.
I'm just telling you, there's more to come. Whoever's job it is to have a policy, to have it be said that there's just, not a policy, we didn't know it was an issue, is insanity to me. You all are professionals.
There is a policy, there's a city ordinance on it. Why aren't you mentioning that?
I'm sorry, it's my turn to speak.
But speak the truth, there is
Okay,
a
what's the
policy.
policy?
It's a city ordinance, they
What
have
is
to
it?
have a background check and.
And what's
list.
done with it? What's the process for it?
It's
Please,
very
please
easy,
enlighten
what's the
me.
process?
Yeah, what is it? Cause there was some confusion, what is it?
There's no confusion. The ordinance
They-
says that.
No, Mike Osborne sat here and said, oh, it's just the way it's always been done, it's not, I think I've taken some training to read it, but I'm not really
If
sure.
they've been convicted of a
No, I didn't say
felony, they can't coach.
Mike sat here, and again, it wasn't taped, right, cause we couldn't get the equipment to work that day. So I can't go back and rewind it, but Mike Osborne sat here and said, well, it's just the way it's always been done. Gosh, we look for certain things. We do a little bit of this. And, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because the other policy that's not there, we have a director who's not qualified to read background checks, currently under investigation by the police.
Mayor, just pulling it forward.
For,
I mean, if she wants to. talk
for,
about policy,
no, this
she
is
wants to talk
completely
about-
relevant.
I'm bringing a
For-
motion to the chair.
He is
She wants to talk
reading
about
them. He's
policy, that's
currently
fine.
under
And then leave it
investigation
to
for
the-
violations against the city of Lincoln and not on an administrative paid leave.
So don't even go there with me, okay? No.
So my point is, it was an administrative meeting.
It's like my name.
Like this, like.
No, that's what it is. There's. Yeah.
Chief, we need you to just intervene here to.
Sure, I'll be glad to step out, but I'll tell everybody right now, I refuse to sit back and allow accusations and comments instead of.
Let's try to keep it on point. Let's try not to make it personal.
Yeah, you.
It is personal. It is personal. That's the problem, is that we do not have a professional entity reviewing those things. We have somebody under investigation for crimes against the city, reviewing background checks. All I'm asking is for that to be changed in a public setting. I am asking you to make those policies. I am asking you to have them immediately looked at and reviewed by your city attorney. I have all of this, I have over 100 hours of research of how the money's not being spent properly with the city attorney. We can't even, I don't even have time to get to the point that his son has been participating in executive sessions. We don't even have time to get to that. But my point is, we don't have policies that are basic policies to run a business, to run a daycare, to run a city. And they're hurting people. It's tearing this community apart. And I was so shocked when Levi said, well, sometimes we just don't know we need that policy. You guys are talking about bringing in townhomes and rentals. We don't even have a policy on the books for rentals. We can't absorb anymore.
Can I ask you a question? And I don't want to interrupt, but can you talk about the bid stuff that you wanted to talk about? And then
Yeah, I would like to bid out
let me say
Raymond's
this.
services.
Let me say this. If you can get a list of everything that you want to talk about, and just please email it to us?
I did, and you did not respond or meet with me Thursday.
You're absolutely correct, because I have a full-time job.
But you didn't
And
respond
I
back. You
can't-
said, yes, I
I
can
sent
meet with
you
you
an email.
Thursday.
I sent
You said,
you an
I can meet
email.
with you Thursday,
Yes.
then you did not meet with me Thursday,
And I
nor
don't
did you
wanna
answer my,
argue with you.
right, but that's my
Trying to
point.
do the best I can to meet with you and meet with everyone, but I do have a full-time job and
You
am
did
also a small business. So I was not able to, and I do apologize, I was not able to get back with you on
But the
Thursday.
final answer can't
But
be
the
emailing
question is-
council when they don't get back to us. That can't be the final answer.
And also will give you my phone number, you're more than welcome to call me. And that's what and any resident, tell any resident that. I will give you my phone number, you are more than welcome to call me. But what I'm asking is because we have such a full agenda, we want to get to everything, but let's talk about your bid, and then if you email us what else you want to talk about, we will absolutely talk about it.
I appreciate that open invitation, so
Absolutely.
let's talk about the bids.
Absolutely.
When I sent an open records request to look for Mr. Dickey's most current contract, I did get it sent, and thank you very much for that. It was from 2002, which seemed obsolete. So I went digging, trying to figure out if the city solicitor and the city attorney job were one and the same. And it appears that at some point the council has combined them, which is a little bit of an issue because now there's some gray area about,
So you're wrong again. If you would just check the charter.
oh, I'm sorry, but you can talk to me a different
this-
way.
You're wrong if you check.
You can talk to
All
me a
right,
different way.
I'm done. So,
Thank you, that would be helpful.
go ahead.
So we are way behind on billing, way behind on Raymond's billing. It is almost identical when we do finally get it 5 hours for the city. There's a couple of times that there's, 1 hour for legal services, November 2019. We finally, got a payment date of it. I'm trying to understand how Raymond's position became no longer a bid out service in 2017. Because there is then an ordinance that comes up in 2017 for our solicitor position, and there is an ordinance that comes up that was a change also for the city attorney position. The one that comes up that mentions his duties as it relates to the solicitor services does have some language in here about being a part-time employee. So is Raymond a part-time employee or is he not a part-time employee? Is some of his services paid as bid out from the city attorney and others not as a contract? It doesn't appear so. It appears that the ordinance overtook it. So I would like some clarification on whether our city solicitor and our city attorney are acting in one and the same. And if it's too overwhelming to him to even bill on time, is there something we can do to help lighten the load? Because we need ordinances updated and put in. We need our safety officer to be available to us. There are other attorneys that would be happy to work for the city of Lincoln. And I don't see that this is working since the amendment. And I'd like for it to be re-put on the table to have the city attorney services bid out. Whether that's an amendment to an ordinance or however y'all want to call it, whatever's most current, contractual, whatever. I think it needs to seriously be looked at and put back on the table.
Just do as, Mr. Kirkland requested, just get us a list of those. Okay.
Okay. I would be happy to do that. Thank you for letting me express myself.
All right, item number 10, new business, is request approval to pay Go Sports USA Incorporated $6,155 for sublimation of baseball, softball, all-star uniforms. Line item 100-6100-53-1116.
Yes, sir. I believe Mr. Ivan is still out. These were this was the amount for the all-star uniforms from some sports area comes right there. Just to go ahead and get that invoice on the agenda so that we can get it paid. They're Mr. Ivan.
Mayor and Council, the, request for the approval of AM Go-To Sports for the, it's the baseball softball all-star uniform that ordered. Just need to get paid.
Oh, we've ordered them and received them and issued them.
They were ordered and they were issued to the all-star team, yes, sir. That has already paid the district tournament. I think this is right at the time of that.
Yeah, during their absence.
Good. Oh, I wish you'd include a picture of them. I like to see it. My kid was on the all-star team, so that's why I like it. I just like to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Blackwell to approve pay to Go Sports USA in the amount of $6,155. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brown? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Item number 11, Penholster Construction LLC, request approval of pay request number 1 in the amount of $40,629. Line item number 320, 4325, 541205.
Mayor and council, this is the, lift station work he's done at, East Town Park, Wadley Circle and West Town Park lift stations. He had to replace the 2 fences and gates and all, East Town, or not East Town Park, West Town Park and Wadley Circle.
Make a motion.
Everything's passed inspection, so.
I make a motion to approve.
Second. Good.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirkland, second by Ms. Taylor to approve Penholster Construction LLC, pay request number 1 in the amount of $40,629. Any other question or discussion?
I think your math, something happened with your calculation on this one. If you can just update the.
I think that's a good idea.
Because it says 45 is the budget, it's minus 40 equals $51,445. So I think that's just a little, I wouldn't. Okay, so this is entered by the, okay.
That's that software stuff she's got.
Question or discussion? Mr. Brown? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Item number 12, Penholster Construction LLC, request approval of pay request number 2 in the amount of $144,516 for the sanitary pump station improvements. Line item number 320, 4325, 541206. Line item number 320, 4325, 541401.
Mayor and council, this was also those lift stations and it also included, some manhole repairs over on Keller Road Lift Station that's run alongside the, golf course. They were in bad shape. It was taking in more groundwater than we was sewer, so got to get those fixed. Plus, they also got the East Town Park Station coated with epoxy on the inside so that the grease and the acids will quit eating up the concrete because it was starting to deteriorate the concrete.
Good. Yeah, you were telling us about it at the last, meeting. All right, quit coming at us with this high number now, though. Second.
Ain't nothing I do is cheap.
Motion by Mr. Brower, second by Ms. Taylor to approve Penholster Construction LLC, pay request number 2 in the amount of $144,516. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Item number 13, request approval to purchase 30 grinder pump, J. Wright, 7 Associates, in the amount of $26,718. Line item number 506, 4325, 54-2107.
Mr. Mayor and Council, do you remember the last time I come to you with a grinder pump, order? Always order them 30 at a time, Granger's price tripled. Nearly $2,000 a pump.
I was gonna say, I didn't recognize your comment.
Now, last time it was 50, I think it's $56,000 we spent with Granger for 30 pumps. This is half the price. Same size pump, same setup and everything else.
Same warranty?
They don't warranty.
Oh,
These are pretty well disposable. That's why we have to keep.
like 1 year or something on.
1 year, some of them will sit in the damn shop for a year. That's why we have to take and go in there and try to keep it cleaned out when it, if you get something stuck in there, you can usually get to it in time to get it out. And the pump will still be usable.
You don't have a grinder pumps, you
No, I do
understand,
not.
I have one, so. Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Blackwell to approve the purchase of 30 grinder pumps from J.H. Wright 7 Associates in the amount of $26,718. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Item number 14, request approval of a bid from APAC Atlantic Incorporated for the T-Splosh projects along East Fifth Street, Montweiler Street, Smithfield Drive, and Zitrow Drive in the amount of $851,500.
Mayor Council, how are you?
Yeah, how about you?
Doing good.
It's been a while since we've
Yeah.
seen you. All right, don't make it happen.
And the sidewalk is not on this list.
It's going in the paper this week or next.
Hold on, sorry.
All the projects.
That's right. We got our DOT approval on the side.
Oh. Good job. Sorry.
This, I had it on our project list as an LME project. I think it's a TC project, bad. But no, we had 3 bidders, and you see the streets, East Fifth, Smithfield, Montweiler. So
APAC hasn't really done much for us, so we've not used them.
they haven't been the low bid. Normally it's Sykes and some others. No, I think the last one that APAC did for us was back in 2018, 2019, and it might have even been behind this area we do here by City Hall, right here by City Hall.
That was my question, since I've been here, I've never heard of APAC doing anything, so I just wanted to make sure, that we don't end up with
They've done work for the city before, and they bid on every damn block roads we've ever done.
I'm just saying,
They always-
council, they have not done anything. So I just want to make sure, you're comfortable with them, and I know we do inspections with, as we go, but I want to make sure that we are very diligent in those inspections, because I don't want to have to end up with waiting months for work. I agree. No, I'm not gonna bring that up, but I just don't want to wait months and months for them to fix things.
Yes, sir, we do,
They're a very reputable company. I know they've been in business at least 4 years. I've known of them.
Oh, that's good. Is the supply chain caught up now, with the rock and all that? Is that
Well, that's a
caught up?
good question. We talked about that a little bit. Some of them say it has. Nobody's told me it hasn't, caught up yet. But, the next step with all this is we'll get, the contracts, have a pre-construction meeting, and all this, thing we talked about is schedule, materials and schedule.
Their financial implications if they don't meet this timeline?
There's liquidated damages built into the contract.
Thank you.
And if you notice, before we have that pre-construction meeting, if you look at every road, section 1, item 2 is what y'all asked us for. And they're gonna provide us with a traffic control plan, specifically showing what their dollar amount will be.
Yeah, they're always down.
Listen. Thank you.
So, our traffic control plans
Thank you.
before they go to work.
Thank you very much. That was funny. It's good.
You know what, we have Smithfield Drive, I was riding down, and we have East Fifth, but this last week I was riding down East Sixth. That's pretty rough too, and all the big oak trees right there pushing. Was that on the radar?
That's why it's one of the spots.
West.
This is Fifth, I was talking about Sixth.
The east or west?
This is east. This is, between the school and the church.
He's saying East Sixth.
I'm saying East Sixth.
East six.
These six already been done.
We did that one
Between the
last.
school and church, yeah, I know what you're talking about, the East Fifth. Right there by O'Reilly, am I all?
That's
seven, right?
Seven. Yes, six goes between the church
East seven,
and the daycare.
but it is terrible. I mean, it's, I don't know how bad Smithfield is. I've been by it, but I hadn't been down there in a while. But, six is really bad.
No, we're not doing all of Smithfield, we're only doing the city section from the back entrance of the, park around to the cul-de-sac. That's all the city owns and.
The front half is private. It's just the back that's behind the Page parking lot at New Macomber and the grass parking lot. There's a leg of road and a big cul-de-sac.
What about Seventh Street though? I mean, is that next year?
Depending on how Peace Park comes in, it'll be before then.
I mean, before then would be great, but it's on the,
West Seventh Street, we gotta get the water and sewer in there so that we can get that road repaired from the previous work that was done. But you think it's gonna take that long to do it?
I just wanted to check. I mean, I noticed it was really, really bad and we got buses, cars and it's, that's encouraging to hear.
3 years to do it.
Big.
Any other questions for Mr. Morgan or Mr. Gold? Is information needed? Not a motion would be in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Blackwell, to approve the bid from APAC Atlantic Incorporated for the T-Splosh projects. And they're named here in the amount of $851,590. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Yes. Item number 15 is approval of the purchase in the amount of $18,500 from Coastal Comfort Systems to install a new HVAC system at the wastewater treatment plant. And we received notification of this. This was an emergency repair. I think, Mr. P, you want to tell us?
Yes, sir, this was a lightning strike or some sort of surge that welded the contactors and the HVAC unit together and made it call for air all the time and burnt the compressors up.
Make a motion to approve. Is it running good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A motion by Mr. Kirkland, second by Mr. Brower to approve purchasing the amount of $18,500 from Coastal Comfort System for the new HVAC system at wastewater treatment plant. Any other question or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just to let you guys know, we're getting a damage report from the contractor. And if possible, and we believe it will be, we will claim on it. So this call could end up being mostly all set at the end of the day. So that's our plan.
Any other question or discussion? Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Taylor? Kirk?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good to see you. Treasurer report.
Yes, sir. Just to remind everyone, qualifying starts tomorrow for the special election, September the 18th. Tomorrow, Day the 15th and 16th, the period is from 8:30 to 4:30. And on the 17th, it's from 8:30 to 2:30. For anybody to qualify. Regular qualifying for the November elections will be next week, the 21st to the 25th, 8:30 to 4:30. Just as Ms. Taylor said, it was a little hot out there, but I just appreciate everybody that helped the rodeo. From Chief Merle to Chief Reed to Planning and Zoning to Public Works to Miss Mona back there. Just everybody pitched in, everybody seemed to have a good time, even with the heat, nobody got really ill with each other. You know, braved the rain on Friday night and had an amazing turnout on Saturday. Just thank everybody for what they were, time periods we got to do with it.
Do you have a cost report for that yet, or like?
I have a preliminary one, but I'll talk to you guys about the end of the week. I think, but the rest of the expenses, it did not cost the city anything to put it. Which sure.
The glitch we had was one of the iPads overheated, but we pulled it down, but everybody loved the fact that we could do credit cards. Yeah.
And it was great. So yeah, the rodeo company has already asked them to go ahead and try to lock in a date for next year. We would love to try not to have it in August. We would try not to have it in August. We'll see.
Park and everything going on.
Yeah, it's just. You have an update on Patriots Park. They were supposed to be out there today to finish up the curbing. I asked them to be here tonight. They were not able to be here. Their contractor, they said, I got a better explanation is when they were having material shortages and things were on back order, they pulled their team off to go to another job. They were told that was okay at the time, but it's been over a month and a half since they have not been here. So they were supposed to be out today working on the curbing. I will check on the site tomorrow and give everyone an update.
Are you having them to be here at the next meeting, even if they are done?
Sure. Copy you guys on that one for close. I will give you guys, send you guys an email tomorrow, but we do have a couple of requests for a workshop. There's one that a citizen would like to have with you guys regarding a code enforcement issue before it comes to a full council meeting. To kind of have some more in-depth conversation with you guys. And then I believe there's a couple of other items that you guys have requested to be on the workshop. Get that going, hopefully before the next council meeting, we can have a date ready to set for a workshop. Other than that, that's all I have today.
Any questions? All right, city engineer, Mr. Morgan.
Just to add to a setup there, we're waiting to hear back from the contract, and hopefully this week, in the next 2 or 3 days, we're gonna have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor for Tim's shop paving job. That was bid, awarded, and contracts are signed, executed. We just got a pre-construction meeting with him. And we're gonna bid these 3 sidewalk projects, Fort Howard, 9th Street, and State Route 21, as quick as we can, and get them to work.
Did we clear up the issue with McDonald's there at the corner?
There was no right-of-way there. The city would have had to take right-of-way, or to buy right-of-way, and plus there's not enough room with the power poles and utilities, the drive-around lane. So we took it out. If we want to ever go back in and add it in, we can, but to keep
So
this
where's the
process
sidewalk
moving.
gonna stop? Because we had it going towards that direction.
There's sidewalk everywhere on both sides of McDonald's except right at McDonald's. It's in front of Dental, it goes in front of Kroger gas station,
Okay,
all the way to Chevrolet Place.
okay.
And then on the other side, it's there. For whatever reason, there was no sidewalk ever put in when McDonald's was built. Or when the road improvements were done. But there is no right of way in there. You have to build, it was a utility relocations, power pole, a wall, all kinds of stuff. So we didn't want to slow y'all's the whole project down just for that small section. So we took it out, DOT's approved it, and we're moving forward. And staff and Terry is working on the easements for 9th Street. We'll have a crew out there tomorrow staking for that one resident that I wanted to see where the easement was. So we're on stake one of the easements, and she's dealing with them. So hopefully by the time we bid these things, we'll have the easements.
But is it possible to do a sidewalk there?
Or,
There is, okay,
but it's not your property. You would have to purchase property from McDonald's.
okay. I mean, it's just stupid to have it go and then stop and then go, you know? I
It's
mean,
just that one section, one sidewalk.
Yeah, it would be, very good, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Police report.
Mayor and council, I've been waiting a long time to say this.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I saw it.
Don't do it. Don't do
I
it.
saw it already.
I got it.
I saw
I got it. I think it's gonna be short-lived, but, the first time since, I believe, 2016, we're fully staffed. Short-lived because we already have one leaving us. August.
Never even said anything.
Yeah, it's already a done deal, so I figured I might as well. August 25th will be Detective Vance's last day. He's moving back to Chicago to take care of his ill mother. He's already secured a job, but at least for the meantime, for a couple of weeks, we're fully staffed. First time I've been able to say it. Our last two Tahoes, 2023 Tahoes are complete. We have to get to West Chatham to pick them up. Aside from that, I've submitted a written report available.
Talk about my cameras at schools.
Yeah.
I saw
Blue
them
line.
put, I saw them
That's what
putting
it
one up
says.
down at Rincon.
They are
Where-
in the process of installing, and I was told, I'm trying not to hold my breath on this, but they should be operational by the end of September.
So we need to start getting communication out to the
Or
public.
speaking with Ms. Sullivan about it.
Yeah.
She's got everything lined up, it's ready to
Well,
go.
I would like to see it before it goes out, because we need to give people plenty of notice. It's different, and we gotta make sure mailings, I'd like to have a couple of, maybe some phone,
On our Facebook page, on
yeah,
the city
something.
website.
We just need to make sure we make it very clear that, of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what those times are. And, you know.
Do you guys have any?
I don't want it to be a fail.
Special, I agree. Any special ideas as to the public information piece? Text me, email me, send it to me. I will definitely pass it on to her. If I can probably schedule a day with her to have her here. If you guys want to come by and sit down and speak direct with her, just let me know how you
I would
want
like to make sure Miss Barbara has all the information as well. Did I get your name right?
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to make sure Miss Barbara gets that as well, so that she can put that out and help us to get it out to the public.
For free.
For free, there you go.
We don't have the population yet for Ring Learning Center within the school. They have to have a 350 population or higher per the statute to have it at that school.
What do you mean? They're not putting it at the school?
At Ring Learning Center.
121 and 4th Street.
That's where they need worse anyway.
No, it cannot go in that zone, in that school zone, until that school has 350 population or higher. It's going at Rincon Elementary.
That's the only place it's going?
That's all, that's per
I-
statute, that's the only place it can get right now.
Well, can we purchase or get a speed limit blinking thing so people can see what their speed limit is? And
They
make
know
that
what, they know what
They
the
know
speed
it.
limit is. They just do 25 now, I mean, like I'm saying, still. They know exactly what their speed limit is.
People fly through there.
The last I talked with them, they were around 300 in that school, give or take 10 or so, it kind of fluctuates.
How
Mr.
many
Brower
in
can
that
probably
school,
speak.
Reese?
Excuse me.
How many's in the school over here?
My office is there, I don't know the number, I'm not part of the administration, but if this year's any indication of last year, we might have 350 pretty soon. That's pretty busy last year.
I'll check with them and see.
So
what-
as soon as
where
we
it's
get
at.
that, do we submit the application? Is that how that works, or?
Yes, so we would submit the application for that zone, just like we are doing with Rincon Learning Center, I mean, with Rincon Elementary, with the list of roads and DOT permit and all that good stuff.
Can we go ahead and have it ready and prepared so that we can jump on it quick when it does happen, if it does happen? So that literally, as soon as we find out, literally that same day or next day, we can do what we need to do and zip it on its way.
It's nothing more than an email from me.
Oh, okay.
Getting those documents and sending it to Blue Line.
Okay.
But on their part, it's gonna be the process of installation and all that.
What would happen if the count at the learning center was to go down the following year for whatever
You
reason?
can't take it out at that point.
Yeah,
Is there
I'm not
anything in
100%
what
on that.
you've reviewed so far that accounts for that?
What I was told by Blue Line was that it has to have 350 population or more in order for DOT to sign off on the permit initially. And you're only signing a permit one time.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because you know your accounts are
Because
varied
at
from
the
year to
end of
year.
the year, you have kids, particularly at Crossroads, you got graduations throughout, but a lot of kids are assigned to the alternative setting for a semester or for a year. So at the end of the year, you might have 40 or 50 kids go back to their base school. And, you know, even if we had the permit, I guess if it's still legal, you continue on, but I don't like skating by like that, make sure we're doing it.
And that's why those numbers fluctuate.
And I didn't know if GDOT had a requirement either. for that
Nowhere that I've
camera.
seen.
They have it to start, but
Right.
if the count was to get lower, because
Did they
sports
make
is
us
gonna
turn it on?
jump because it's a special school in this case.
And we're not trying to push the issue.
Right.
And the population is not
Just
student
something I thought about,
population.
yeah.
The population is student staff population. So it's a combined count.
We're moving forward.
That's true. Any other questions? Fire department report?
Mayor and council, ISO went really well, through the diligent work of our staff. We should be able to keep what we had or even improve to a class 2 ISO.
What does that mean for us going from a 3 to a 2?
Insurance rates.
Insurance rates go down.
Chief, when we know that.
Sir, 90 to 100 days from inspection date, which was the 3rd. Though we do not receive paper copies anymore, it is done all by ISO mitigation website now.
We should
So
know
you just
something
get
before the
email
end of the year.
notification.
Yes, we should know something before the end of the year, definitely. We have a hiring test on the 18th, hopefully to fill the other 2 vacancies that we have. Not gonna do it. So, looking forward to that, and I have a report if you have any questions.
One more question. Does that mean insurance rates for our residents as well could?
And commercial.
decrease? That is really good. Yes, please keep us up to date on that.
Yes, there's only 600 fire departments in the nation out of 19,000 that are a class 2.
Wow. Good job.
So, all right.
They sure run the county right, you know.
All right, building and zoning?
Hello, just a few things. I want to update y'all on a couple things you asked about at the last meeting. So, Rinkin Shadow, which is that development, by Kroger, they were supposed to, David called them after the last meeting to find out about the potholes. They were supposed to fill them. They hadn't done it, at the end of last week, so he was reaching back out to them and is gonna stay on top of them to get that filled, because we went and drove through. It's worse on the front side of Lowe's, but there's one on the back side of Lowe's too that isn't that great, so we're gonna stay on top of them to get them to fix that. The old Food Lion site, in case you haven't heard, it's definitely going to be Ace Hardware. They turned in their demolition permit for starting to do stuff inside the building, so they'll be moving forward with that. Like Doug said, with the 9th Street sidewalk project, we did send out letters. Five properties, 4 property owners to ask for the donation of easements for that sidewalk project. We received 1 signed back today and another one called me last week. That's what Doug referred to. They just want to have it staked out in front of their property before they sign the easement. I haven't heard back from the other 2 yet. And then the final item I have, and that's why David was nice enough to stay this late, is y'all had asked about specifically the condition of roads where Huddle House, Truist Bank, Rutland are, and in driving through those, and then kind of taking other ways out of there, it's not just that. I mean, certainly those areas are bad, but there are other areas as well that are kind of suffering from that same thing. And so when I talked to David about it and I looked back through, he told me that it had come up before, that he had brought some code enforcement actions to y'all in the past. And I went back and looked at minutes and it looked like there was some discussion about what our role could be since they are private roads. I know with Rutland, they put up private signs, which to be honest, I didn't even notice when I went out and did my site visit. Lolly told me that they had them up and I went back and saw little blue private signs. I guess I was expecting something, a little bit, no access or access at your own risk. They're just attached to the stop sign.
Those private road signs, John Clem had me put those up.
And I don't, here's the thing, I mean, even if it's, even if
They
it.
were private because they kept calling the city, wanting to file complaint
Right,
to the city for damages to their car.
Right, it's certainly, like, if somebody would do that, then you can say there was a private sign you didn't, but it's not, it's certainly not gonna keep people from using it as a cut through, you know, on either of those sides. We know it's going to be fixed in front of the old Taco Bell, KFC, because in talking with Jacob Lang, he's gonna dig down all the way, replace that sub base, all of it. It sounds like none of it was built correctly to begin with, but it's just gonna fix that one portion. So I asked David to stay and talk a little bit about this since he had been involved with it before, and maybe we can come to a decision about the best way to deal with this. Because again, it's not just this one area. I know these are where y'all are getting a lot of complaints about, but like I said, just kind of backtracking through other shopping centers, you see kind of that same thing.
So I think, as you know, when I first got here, I got involved with this road situation. And I brought all the owners in, and I brought it in front of council. I talked to Raymond. The last conversation we had at council was there was an issue about how can we make them fix the road when it was private property. And if I'm correct, Raymond chimed in and said, basically, that the only way that we could hold them to the fire to fix the road would to be revoke their business license.
Well, we'd have to change the ordinance.
Right. And the other problem was, at the time, KFC did not have a business license. The bank does not have a business license. So we would be stuck with going after Huddle House and Rutland Tire. And so that's pretty much how it all ended. The only good thing, like Terry said, when we did the plan review, that was the first comment that I put, that KFC to fix the road up to road standards, because it definitely is not, and never was. The road was done in 1993, if I'm correct. That's how long that road's been there, being used as a throughway with not meeting road standards. It's getting eaten up. They patch it, 2-3 months later, back to the same again. So I really took this thing on when I first started it, because I was trying to get to a resolution, get to an answer on how we're gonna fix this. And we kind of hit a stone wall again after coming in front of you and with Raymond and trying to figure out how we're gonna fix this. Because it's not gonna stop, it's just gonna continue.
Well, the issue is this, all of that is private property. That was a self-contained development. Those were never intended to be dedicated public roads to the city. But all of those property owners along there, from Rutland Tire all the way over to Truist, which would be Lisa Street, they have what we call reciprocal easements with Walmart and all the other ones for all of the folks who use their businesses to use those roads. So in reality, it is open to the public because anybody can use it. And so when that was built, those standards were in place, and I'm assuming that was in the county at the time. I'm not sure that was in the city. Okay, but it was in the city. But that was the project, and each one of those business owners, Walmart, all of them, are actually responsible for all of it. They don't want to take responsibility for that. They want to take responsibility for the little section in front of their business. But all of them are actually responsible, but that's between them, and that's the reason why they're private roads. I'm sure that the city could ask them to dedicate those, but you better have some money available to be able to
Because the road
Pay-
actually,
payroll.
it does not meet road standards. So like, with the old KFC, it has to be actually graded down and built back up. So it's very expensive.
The only portion that may be is the entry at the Walmart at the signal,
It might be,
because
Is that-
18-wheelers do enter there.
and that's held
occasionally.
up. That's held
Can't
up.
we, can't we
That,
force?
that would not even be city property,
Right, yeah.
because 21 is owned by the Georgia Department of Transportation. And at every intersection, they own so far
Yeah, that's right.
in off of
50 or
21.
75 feet or something.
I don't know if it's that far, I'm not sure how far it is.
That
Can we-
depend on where that.
Yeah.
Can we not fix it and force them to pay because it's a safety issue?
We have attempted that in the past with other
Attempted, I
roads.
mean, we can lien, put a dang on lien on their property, just like we do anything else, right?
Or can we sue them? I mean, everybody else sues us, so.
I mean, because if you put a lien on the property, especially the bank, I mean, eventually somebody's gonna buy it. and we
Pass
eventually get our
the
money.
ordinance and tell Walmart if they don't get all of the roads straightened out, that you're gonna not issue them a business license.
Yeah, citizens of the whole county would be upset with us then, not just.
So that's where we're
So
up against.
poles or wall.
I mean, that's what we're up against, and that's why I brought it to as far as I could, bringing the owners in and talking with Raymond, and it's just, I mean, I don't know where to go,
Yeah.
as far as enforcement.
David, you've done a good job. You stayed
Yeah,
on
thank
top
you
of
for.
it. I mean, because you've been working on this for years, and I realize.
Since I got hired here.
And I mean, there's no easy answer. It's just
No,
one of those things where you just stay on top of it. and
It's a
hope
very,
for the best.
it's a very hard answer, because do you shut down a business? Not really. Because if you do, you're gonna put them out of business, probably Huddle House or whatever. So, you know, you don't wanna do that either. But I don't, I'm looking to Raymond.
And so we're not necessarily looking for an answer today, but because you asked about it, I did want to follow up with you.
Right,
And at least let you know, it's not that we're ignoring it, it's just, it's not, like David's saying, it's not an easy fix. It's not just like, hey, you need to fix this, and we've tried that before, so.
and if they just keep patching it, just with, you know, I just keep going back. Because the patches do not hold. So I was trying to find a better solution, but it's a very hard solution.
Any other questions?
They did do Fort Howard Square.
Yep.
They did, it was nice.
Milled and asphalt and that all.
Yep.
Are they gonna do the other side, you think?
Probably not.
Probably not.
All right, recreation report?
Mayor and council, me and Johnson spoke, and, we have our fall sports coming up, and we are at crunch time with getting the uniforms ordered. We need to get them ordered no later than tomorrow, Wednesday, shooting tomorrow. Of course, y'all know the situation. I've been out, there's not been anybody over there. Getting quotes, I got two, I asked for a third, never did receive it, so me and Alexis reached out to some other vendors and trying to get somebody to give us another quote tomorrow. Of course, we would like to ask you guys if we can go ahead and purchase these uniforms. They're gonna be probably, right now, I think football was around 8,700. And the soccer and cheer will probably be somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000. I'm not sure, I think Johnny, was it 20,000 to be sealed bid?
That's correct, yes.
That's correct, okay, yeah.
And 20, if you guys have heard of, it's not me to say this number, it's page 281 of your agenda packet. It does show that the remaining line, the remaining budget in the uniform line after the purchase tonight was $42,440. So the budgeted amount is not the problem. It's just getting the expense approved, like Mike said, in a timely fashion.
Well, the next
I don't
council
see a
meeting,
problem with it under the circumstances.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
How do y'all feel,
Like a not
council?
to exceed amount so that we make sure that the building's covered.
But if you do 9 + 7, that's, 16, so.
Can we just play it safe and say 17? I don't think it'll be that, but I just like to play it safe.
Progressive reporting on the past, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I looked at your budget today. We're still fine.
Okay, thank you.
Not to exceed the 70.
Hey, will you bring the plans for Patriot Park next time?
Yes, ma'am, I
We
will.
could
Well, you can
see
email.
where we're gonna go from the equipment to the next stage and all that. And I saw where you are getting bids for the bathrooms. I can't wait for that. Will you let us know ASAP so we can get started?
Yes, ma'am, I will
I
do that.
appreciate it.
I will do that.
Thank you.
The only other thing I have is a very important issue. I'll say this, we kind of, because I'm still a little confused. You know, Jonathan thought I was coming back in 12 weeks, y'all thought I was coming back. I thought it was gonna be 12 weeks. Background checks, where do we stand? Am I reviewing them? Is it Jonathan, is it the chief? I will say this, in all the years I've been here, I've probably reviewed over 1,700 background checks. Anytime there was a red flag, in my opinion, I've always got with the city manager or the city attorney, and the city attorney, and felt that if they shouldn't be coaching, you don't let them coach. Thank God, in my opinion, so far has been right. We have not had any issues. So what I'm getting at is, I just need to know, is it gonna be me? Is it Jonathan? Is it the chief? How do you want us to handle it so we're all on the same page?
I don't think we have Jonathan sent us the policy that he kind of, that him and Raymond and I think the chief worked on. I'm assuming you saw that as well?
I don't think it's been sent to Mike.
No,
yet.
I mean,
I was
I
just
think-
trying to get your input and,
Yeah,
see if
I
we're on
mean-
the right page.
I think so far from what I've read, I didn't go deep into it. It's only like 2 pages, I think.
At the most. yes.
Yeah, I think once we get the policy down, then I think we should move forward with whatever's in the policy. But in the interim, I know you got coaches going. I don't know what the right answer is. What does council want to do? I mean, do we want him to continue with his current process or do you want to pause?
Yeah, coaches.
Let the coaches do what they're gonna do. Well, actually, I do have an opinion. I feel like we should let the coaches, go ahead and have the coaches fill out the normal stuff, in my opinion, have them fill out their normal paperwork. Don't submit it until after our policy has been put into place. And then if they don't fall under that policy, that's what I think.
I know he's gonna go, there's a time limit.
Yes, the only issue with that is once they sign the consent form to run the criminal history, if we do it like we've always done it with the GCIC, NCIC background, those expire after 7 days.
After 7 days? I don't know, it will be done in 7 days.
They would have to come back anyway and sign another consent form if we exceed that 7 day period.
Soccer and cheer set to start next week practice.
So I think just, based on the email that you guys saw from Raymond and also the policy that we kind of worked on language with you guys and what was done. I think what was in there was they signed the consent, the PD runs it. If there's any issues, they get with the department head and consult with the city manager. If there's any issues, they just move forward. That was just the simple process. That I think Raymond kind of recommended in his email that there's also in that policy. I don't know any other way at this point to, like Mike said, to kind of move in that direction. I will say the only reason I was involved previously was there was no department head in Parks and Rec. I don't need to be involved unless there is an issue that comes up. I think every department head should be responsible, but the central point would be having GCIC run it through the police department and get with the department heads from there.
I still feel like that's overkill. I mean, if we have a policy, why does the police chief need to be involved? The police chief runs the check or someone from the PD runs the check, the give it to the department head goes through, looks through. I mean, if he doesn't, if the department head doesn't have access to be able to do it, that's one thing, but I thought we kind of determined that it was a little bit of I get it, we can do more. But I still look at other departments and other cities and other municipalities of our size, and I feel like we're just doing too much. As my kids say, we're doing too much. But, I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, I just feel like it's just too much and Chief, again, I respect what you're doing and I appreciate it, but I still feel like it's too much.
So on our end of the process, if that's the case, of course, we run the background checks, whatever the case may be, but whoever's requesting that background check, not the department head, for whatever department that is. For instance, if you come in to the police department and say, hey, I need a background check because I want to go to the rec department, then that background check would only be handed over to you and you do at your will what you want to do with it.
No, the department head gets that from the volunteer coaches, and then it goes back to the department head to make the decision on whether they can be a volunteer coach based off of criteria that we have set. That's what I would like to see, because that's the quickest and I mean, if we have a policy.
Right,
He's
there's
got
no
something.
felony.
Right, I mean, whatever we decide on this policy.
I guess my point is, I would not hand the physical background check to anyone other than the person that is being ran on.
Why? Why can't it go to the department head?
Because
he
the
doesn't
proper
have
certification is not there to be had. I cannot disperse that information to anyone without that GCIC certification. I legally cannot do that. So if I turn it over to the person that has requested the background check, they can disperse it at their will because it's their own background check.
That's even more reason why we should do what everybody else does, and just have them pay $35 and then we get to see what they do, right? I mean,
Are you talking about something, I think we're convoluting a situation. Everybody wants to do the right thing. I mean, you have kids' safety at stake. But, I mean, there's national organizations where you can pay a certain fee, whether it's 20 or 35 or whatever. I mean, if they're volunteer, if you want to coach, you pay the $35 or $50.
Yep.
Or you don't coach.
Yep.
And then we take it out of the chief's hands. Because, I mean, that's taking, I don't know who pays for it, but that's a lot of time. You're tying his staff up.
I'm not
So, I
opposed
mean,
to us paying for it, to be honest.
If we want to, that's fine, but then we got, if you don't get an approval from this national organization, I mean, what's some of them?
NCAA, no, not NCAA, because I had to pull it up
like
last time.
3 letters in it. There's several organizations, but
NYSCA, USAA, and I forgot what the other one is.
I think the second thing, I mean, we're not gonna do that right now, but it would be very simple if we said, okay, you pay your money, you've got, I mean, because they have access to everything, they have professionals that look at it, and then it kind of takes the onus off us. I mean, I think that's what we should do, have a policy to that effect, that way it takes it off staff, and nobody's pointing fingers back and forth. And, you got a professional organization that are basically recommending who should coach and who shouldn't coach.
Isn't that what we used to do like 15 years ago with the county?
The county still does it, because I had to do it a couple of years ago.
But anyway, I was just throwing that out there. But
That's a
however,
good
we do
idea.
it this year, we're kind of punting right now.
And I think there's a group of Mike, we'll ask Mike, I can ask Mike to research, I think the Georgia Parks and Rec Association has a partnership with an entity through, I don't think it's like NBC Sports or Peacock Sports, like that national brand that they run background. That may be what we want to do. But I think it is about $35 per check, and they check their whatever background and social media or whatever that, and then they get the form. I think that would be perfect. I think that would-
And Mike, your thing.
Yes, sir.
What did we do last year when we started sports in 2022? We didn't run through the police department background checks, did we?
We brought them over here, background check was done, we got a call that they were ready to pick them up, and me and staff reviewed them.
They've been ran through the police department since 2012.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. What did we do before? What agency did we use before? And so,
For the criminal histories,
well, for the background check.
that was GCIC and CIC.
Okay, that was my question, yeah.
I know since 2012, probably longer.
But then we're getting into all the legalities of using that information.
I can divulge it to the person requesting.
Right.
I just can't give it to anybody else.
Can't give it to any
Unless
of
they've got the
us.
certification.
So right now for the soccer and cheerleading, the way I was doing it, and then we go with the policy.
Until we do what Reese said.
Well, I mean,
I think we can implement our part pretty quickly. I mean, I need to check, but if I heard Chief Merle right, if the coach gives Merle or the police department their background check form, they turn around and give it to that person can then give it to Mike.
Yes.
The chief can't give it to Mike, or the police department can't, but the coach could give it to Mike. Or anybody at Parks and Rec to review. It's like, I could give you my background, but he can't give you my background.
They're gonna fill out the paperwork, they're gonna bring it, police department, they get it back from them, they bring it to us.
Bring it to you. Yeah, that's what I heard. That can be done.
how long would it take to get, how many football players do we have signed up this year?
How many football players do we have? Our numbers are up, we're like at 145.
Soccer?
How many teams are?
Soccer is down.
No, it is down. How long would it take, and I'm not trying to, again, make it more confusing than it should be, but I mean, we got everybody sat down, I mean, most of them, you're gonna look at it and put it in a stack. You're gonna have a few, and if you have like a committee with city manager, city attorney, recreation director, and police chief, I mean, you should be able to look through those pretty quickly and come to a consensus. I don't know that from a time perspective, if that's even a task that we can accomplish and get started on time. What do you think, Mike?
That starts next week for these fall sports.
Mr. Brower, I think that's a great idea. I think you could even add to that and say if the committee doesn't unanimously agree on it, they can come before y'all. My sole intention when all this got started was simply to have someone who knows how to interpret those criminal histories to weigh in on. That's how the whole thing worked. And that what you just said would afford that opportunity. That's the whole thing I was trying to say.
I've given all the suggestions I can give.
I'm right with you, Reese. I mean, how hard is it to just go online, and just have them fill it out and just do it? And I'm all for spending an extra maybe $200 at most for each season to pay back these coaches.
Yeah, I
that do
agree.
it. I mean, because that's how the county does it. That's how a lot of other people do it. I feel like that's the easiest, quickest way. If they come back approved, good. If they don't, then we can go through the chief's process to figure out if they want to press the issue.
I also have no issue with that whatsoever because it takes it out of my hands.
Yep. I just feel like that's the easiest route. I won't say who, but someone mentioned that safe sport is a really good one.
So right now, just tell me how you want me to handle soccer and cheer.
I think we should, tomorrow you guys can get into a room and figure out which site you guys want to use and have them to go online and do it. That's what I feel like is the easiest and best way for it.
Mike, are there any?
I'm not the only council person there.
It probably makes it easier for them to go on. Yeah, I agree.
And we gotta get working that policy.
Yes.
In the meantime. Public Works report.
Report.
Any questions? Wastewater, Mr. Key?
Mr. Keys, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I asked the other department head, from the golf course about how much reuse water you send to the golf course. And the monthly report here has 0.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just, I see the sprinklers going off and I can smell the water. So, is there not a counter on that pump line?
There is a meter.
A meter of
out that has failed.
It's failed, okay.
And we're working right now trying to get it fixed. We thought we had it. Purchased a new top of the meter that.
That does the counting? There's probably the rotary going down the line.
Yes.
Cause I asked Brian about it and he had no idea either, so.
Cause he can count how much he puts out, but he can't count how much he's getting.
That's why, cause I know he might have to draw from a well also that, irrigate at times. Or not. Can you
No,
clarify?
we don't disconnect, he strictly gets it from the pond,
It's all
and that comes either from rainwater or
reuse.
treatment plant.
So there should be two of them. If I recall correctly, there's one that he's sending, and then there's another one that we are expelling. He should be able to tell you how much he's expelling.
Very good question.
Yeah, just hurry up and get the meter fixed. I was just curious about that, cause I keep seeing zeros and I know they're using it, so.
Any other questions?
That's one.
Finance report?
Mayor, well, the auditors are still working. Matthew one of his employees had a death in the family, so they did not come in today. This is supposed to be the last week they're in the office working the audit. I just wanted to remind leadership and let you all know too, I'll be going on vacation for about 13 days. While I'm gone, I'll still be working with leadership on budgets. So I'll be setting appointment times for all of the leadership and working from Hawaii at that time to get everyone's budget. It's gonna be a process, so I'll be copying council on it too, so you can kind of see what our process is and how we come up with our final figures. So it's gonna be a little bit of process that Jonathan and I have been working on, trying to make sure that that we still meet our deadline even though I'm gone. So.
Any questions?
Have a great time.
She's not going to the island that was burning yet.
Golf course, you have a written report in your packet. He probably doesn't want to say anything, but just acknowledge Jim Watkins, our course superintendent. He's back in the back with us tonight. Jim, anything you need to say? Stay. All right, thank you. Anything from council?
Yeah, Mike, are you still getting the inmates over there?
As far as inmate stuff, we usually get our 2 or 3. But I have had, when I came back, 1 week I had them for, I think it was 2 days, and then the next week, the last week I had them.
Well, can we get the,
I guess, I call it 4 games, I guess y'all call it the detail crew.
I was just wondering about the grass being cut in the backfield and at Macomber. Can we get some of the part-time people?
Yeah, I actually had a part-time come in today, and he's gonna come in again Wednesday, he's gonna cut.
Okay, thank you. I think we need to negotiate the contract for the prisoner help, because I was told they work 5 minutes and take a 10-minute break or something. What's up with that? I wanna know about
Whenever
that.
it's hot, they can only work them so long.
Yes.
When it gets to a certain temperature, they have to be allowed to take a 15-minute break.
That's the prison's rules.
Yeah.
What, really?
Yes.
But yet our employees could get out there and work and sweat.
Yes, he shall. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ain't nobody stopping this.
We're not getting our money's worth. Okay, well, I want to meet with them. Jonathan, I want to set up a meeting with whoever handles that.
Sure, I was to say, I could be wrong, but I think that's the department.
It is.
You can get them to explain that.
That's set by the state. It's like whenever the temperature gets cold, 28 degrees, they come out.
Yeah.
Mike, I forgot to ask you, I know you got some open positions. Did we talk to any of our part-timers to see if they were interested in going?
Jonathan sent me some applications and resumes, and I started doing some interviews. And also, I'll send out info to some part-time people.
That currently work for us?
Yes, that are no longer in high school, you know, they're.
Okay.
Interested, just fill out an application, just let me know and I'll find out. So do they need to fill out another application? Or they just be talked to, interviewed, and if that's the choice, be moved into that spot?
Okay.
So what we would normally do there, Mike, if they've already done the application, we have a position change form, called a payroll action form, that we could shift them, to that.
Okay.
So that's an internal shift, if that's what you want to do. They don't need to fill out a new application if they already have one on file.
Okay.
Which leads me to my next question. You close to an HR person?
We are.
We are?
We are.
Okay.
We'll get it. Yes.
Okay.
Highest recommendation from Ms. King on this person.
Oh.
Oh, my lane. I think her said not her review good enough.
Yeah, they'll see if these are both.
Wet.
Anything else from council? Mr. Morgan and Tim, what was the latest?
Did they win?
What's the latest on the water line across Augusta, the chimney to tie in and make that loop and with the water tower was out? Have y'all heard anything?
And they're got, plans, getting ready to submit them for approval from EPD. Yeah.
No, because it's getting close. They're building fast and furious down there. I know we're waiting on the water tower from the IDA too. So.
Now we have to get the, booster station rehab. So I know we're gonna have to start buying water from the campus.
So the IDA is supposed to be doing that project there, project on right?
Almost certain safety, is the safety in front of theirs, I mean.
And the water.
Well, that's all you're doing right now. I got you, but you gotta come up with the money first.
Yeah.
We'll do that. So.
They didn't have no water. And they can cars in there.
Anything else from council? Do we have a need for an executive session?
Not that I know.
I think so, but I can wait.
Motion to adjourn in order. Second. By Mr. Brower, second by Mr. Slacker, to adjourn, all in favor, signify. Aye.
I said I'll tell you later. And I don't know what to tell you what. Because I didn't
Good to see you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, fine. I might stay up together.
Yeah.